So, topic one, I'm stalling because I don't actually have it pulled up. I never had these things pulled up when I'm like start talking. All right, anyway, topic one. Um, recently, Black Hammer, a separatist group, bought land in Colorado in an effort to create a black ethno-state. What are your thoughts on these endeavors? Should a group like this simply be roundly ridiculed, or should any attempts ever be made to integrate them and their efforts into the larger movement? And credit to our friend Katarana, who brought this to my attention. So we'll start with Joe Lewis. We'll do minute-long introductions and go from there. All right, Joe.
Yeah. It's the same question that pretty much permeated. If we think back to like Booker T. Washington, right? Which is how do you, if your goal is to separate yourself from structures of power, how do you do that? This is where while built like because if the goal is to separate from society or was to separate within your own sort of coalition, that's totally fine and good. But there's still going to be a level of collaboration with those structures of power that you kind of have to address and answer. Like, how are you going to get your water? How are you going to get your materials for building your community, whether that be infrastructure for roads or just housing? So, like, how do you go about those things? Booker T. Washington found a way to cater to white elites in order to accomplish that. Um, and that led to a bunch of stuff because he literally collaborated with the Klan. Now, I'm not saying that the Black Hammer is going to communicate with the Klan or anything like that, but I think one thing that I haven't really heard within their language, so I haven't been paying attention to them, is how they're going to go about doing things like getting and building up an infrastructure for water, like building infrastructure for their food supply. Because while they come off like very sort of excited about these things, these are all questions that you have to answer if you're looking to build a city and stuff like that. And then also, how do you go about building your society while collaborating with the United States? Because you're still in the United States and you have to adhere to those laws. So, like, how do you navigate around like the Constitution, Bills of Rights, Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, all that stuff? So, I'm made of questions.
Yeah, thanks so much. Next, Baha.
Uh, so I think we all saw that like video that went. Was it? Did it go viral? The clown one, the Joker face, kind of Black Hammer thing, where the guy's like, has no one seen that? Is that not him? The guy that's in like the Joker makeup the whole time?
I don't know.
If not, you should see that video, and it just makes me believe that these people like need some help. Because I get wanting to establish, a place for minorities to feel, welcome and non-victimized in America. I just don't think this is probably the safest endeavor to partake in because a lot of these people that want to create their own regions where they're autonomous and they're free and they're able to make their own rules typically end up having a lot of like fucked up things go on, especially in regard to resource management. Um, and I don't think we ever even get to a stage where we get to like see how their beliefs are actually, put in place like in real life. So I just always hesitant when these things pop up. I mean, there've been a couple different autonomous regions. I don't think is this like the first like black nationalist one, or not black nationalist, but like minority focused one. There were other autonomous zones like early in the year. I forget their names, but as always, I'm just like I'm very hesitant to even like support any of these things because usually it's just people getting hurt.
Yeah, great. Pyro Tyrant.
Okay, so like I just want to preface this by saying like I do not want to conflate this with the idea of like groups of people not wanting to segregate themselves and shit, but just like, yo, we want to live on a piece of land that we own away from government as much as, we possibly can, right? Like the Amish and the Mennonites, perfectly okay with that. That being said, I don't like fucking ethno states and what these people doing, is an ethno state. And, looking at their efforts and what they're bragging about, it's pretty fucking laughable. So like I'm okay with laughing them out of this. I don't really think there's a way to reach them, but I am open to fucking suggestions. Uh yeah, that's pretty much my opening statement. Like there's a lot of problems that they have and we'll probably get to it in the meat of the panel.
Thanks so much, Lyra.
All right. So, okay, as you know, Pirate said, I also hate ethno states. I think like I understand the want to like have a safe space for people of color to congregate and have their own businesses, feel safe in their own homes. I get it, but this is definitely not the way to go about it. I also like when I read the article, it was like almost laughable how it was like, oh, our mission is to make a place where like people are like, we're all safe and free from racism. If you're white, you're not allowed to come out. I was like, so I think it's very naive to think that if you just simply cut white people out of the equation, racism will simply cease to exist. Because it's like, as we all know, people of color can be very racist towards each other. So I was like, that's one thing. You're still going to have the issue of racism going on. And then there's just like all the other logistical things. And like I saw in the article, they were talking about, okay, well, what are they going to do about water rights? Because they just went somewhere in the mountains. And it's like, I get what they're trying to solve, but the way that they go about it is just they went about it. It's just ridiculous. I also think it's very weird how they decided to like, okay, come all people of color to this one place. It's just like, well, if you wanted to make a safe space for people of color to live, there are plenty of places in America right now where it's predominantly people of color, and you could just help those places. Why? Delegate a whole huge plot of land somewhere random in the mountains to create an ethno state. If your goal is to help people of color, then help people of color in these neighborhoods that need. There are plenty of neighborhoods that need help that are filled with people of color. I mean, they don't shut out like white people because I think it's very weird to just outright be like no white people allowed. Because it's like I don't know. That's not really going to solve as much as you think it will solve. I just think the whole thing is very misguided. I don't support it, and I think it's ridiculous. I get the sentiment. I think it's ridiculous. I don't like black separatism or ethno states.
Thanks so much. Azzy.
Listen, I have no problem with ethno states, but Black Hammer, it's kind of funny. I'm sorry. These people, it's kind of goofy, man. They bought a bunch of, they do any research on the land they bought. Turns out they gotta buy, they bought the land, but now they gotta buy the permits to do all the natural work that they need to do within the area, like getting fresh water from the river, a constant source of food. They're still gonna be interacting with us. I mean, I have no problem with ethno states, but the reason why I laugh at them, why they look like why they look like the bad guys in Naruto, bro? Why they look like the hidden? Why they look? Y'all can't tell me. Look at this picture.
I might join if they give us a clue.
Yeah, right?
Look at the hidden village of Hammer, bro. That's what they are. It's gonna be a meme. Nah, man. Get these cats out of here.
Listen, I think we can all agree if they give us cool outfits, we can like go on board with this. But I don't see like the cool enough. Where are the capes? Where are the
I'm not here to buy. Listen, as soon as you become a t-shirt, you can't be no, you can't be I'm not gonna take you seriously. You selling t-shirts? Come on now. I'm sorry, guys. But you listen, they the Black Akatsuki,
I know what
bro.
you're saying. You
The
didn't have to say
Negro
it like
Akatsuki, bro. They the new Negro Akatsuki. That's what happened. It's a shame. It's a shame. I'm sorry.
Okay.
If y'all meme them because of what I said, if I thought it, other people thought it.
All right. Well, thank you, Fanatic.
Yeah, so I don't know. For me, I think ridiculing them is absolutely the wrong thing to do. And I think the reason is because I think it's very obvious to recognize the conditions that are leading to this. And I think Martin Luther King had a really important statement that he was making. And he was basically saying that to condemn the riots that were happening while being silent about the condition that led to those riots is basically sanctioning those conditions. And it's unfair. And it's an immoral thing to do. Likewise, even if these people, the way that they're carrying out some of these actions is super misguided, I think the idea of just laughing at them, I think it's awful because I recognize the things that would make them feel this way and lead them into these situations are horrible mistreatment at the hands of various people. I'm not even sure it's technically an ethno-state because an ethno-state requires a particular ethnic group, and this isn't necessarily a particular ethnic group. This is just saying all but this one particular ethnic group. So I'm not even sure it falls underneath the definition of what an ethno-state is. I think the idea of them like getting this land in Colorado, where like the land is cheaper, I get why they chose that, but clearly this is why you need large amounts of people making these sorts of decisions, so that way you can actually think these things through all the way. The water rights in Colorado are pretty atrocious, so they're gonna have some also issue. There's some issues like as far as cultivating land and all. I mean, cultivating like agriculture and all that stuff. So it seems like they're gonna be running into some problems. But ultimately, I applaud them for doing this. I applaud the idea of wanting to be more self sufficient and so on and so forth. And, yeah.
Legend.
Yeah, so I looked up ethno-state because obviously I'm as dumb as I look. It says a sovereign state of which citizenship is restricted to members of a particular racial or ethnic group. I don't know if that like particularly fits them, but if they consider themselves an ethno-state, then so be it. I applaud their efforts. I respect their efforts. Guess an example of an ethno state would be what the Native Americans have done. I guess in a way that is similar or whatever. But I was reading an article and they was talking about like how they was having difficulty with water rights and how they don't like the land isn't like you can't cultivate the land and farm and things of that nature. So again, I applaud what they're doing. I can understand, like what Fanatic was saying that there's circumstances and conditions that has led them to want to take action and do that. So I appreciate that and I respect that. And I think that as far as them being like the Negro, I say the
Go ahead,
Negro
say
acting
it. Go ahead, say
spooky or
it.
whatever.
Say
Yeah, I really only see one Negro. It looks like a whole mixed batch of people, but I respect. I'm a big believer in free will. I appreciate what they're doing, and I think that they have a long way to go if they really want to, I guess, advance in this or whatever they're trying to do. They have a really long way to go, and it could be a start. Start in the right direction.
Okay, so I'll open this to the panel, and I'll put the link to the story in the Twitch chat, so you all can see what we're talking about. This group, this Black separatist group, bought land in Colorado in like this inhospitable area, to kind of start their own little colony there. But I'll put that link in chat. All right, open to the group.
Yeah, like
Oh yeah, Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say like the one question that I always have about this, because like again, like I want to make this incredibly clear from the jump that Black separatism is not hateful ideology. Period. Now, the problem comes with Black separatism is that the individuals that we see now, that we think back to like, oh, these are separatist groups, it's not the separatism that makes it the ideology hateful. It's the stuff around that. Because for a lot of these groups, whether it be if you think like the Nation of Islam, the NFAC, what have you, is that these like the separatism is a part of their advocacy, but it's not the core of their ideology. That's a very important thing to understand here, because one of the questions that I always have is like, how does one build a political and economic power base where one's very goal is to separate itself from political and economic system power? And this is a question that Black Hammer has to answer, because when you're trying to move yourself away from society for whatever reasons, and that's fine, whatever reasons that you have, and I would argue for a lot of Black Americans who want to separate themselves from American society, I think their grievances are justified, but there's still going to be a level of collaboration involved. So how do you navigate that, right? As much as they want to be anti-colonialism and being against the systems of power that led to colonialism, you're still going to have to participate in the game in order to build your infrastructure. And that's going to be something that you're going to have questions every step of the way as you build that.
Also, I posted the Twitter video I was talking about in the VC chat and in the Whereby private chat, and like I get everything everyone's saying about understanding where they're coming from, but I do think this deserves some level of ridicule, because at the end of the day, I think this is just an idea that really is just going to hurt people, whether physically or financially, depending on how devoted they are to this. Like buying this land and just having it like be a plan that just falls through is literally only hurting the people that they want to protect. It's just
So, like-
super misguided to the point of destructiveness. and it kind of just it poisons the well for doing these things in a serious way a little bit. Especially when, if you look at the Twitter video, you have this dude dressed up in Joker makeup giving a speech, to Antifa about, fucking with his people. Like, I just don't know how this. I feel like this should be ridiculed, just so we can further separate this from any genuine attempts at having some kind of like black separate state or area or whatever.
Don't you know that's the leader, man? The world will know Hammer, man. The world will
bro.
know Hammer.
Well, I would even say to your point, Baha, is that you can't like. I'm really pilled on this. Where you can have an area of the country where demographically it's going to look like a certain way. Like we literally codify that in the law, where you have areas that are predominantly white, predominantly Asian, predominantly black. But then what happens is there's still integration with the rest of society, and what like any attempt that you try to make it exclusive for one particular group, you're going to run into problems. So like a way that white Americans found a way to do that is codify it through the law and different levels of like financial exclusion. Like look no further than gated communities across the United States, where a lot of them are over 95% white. But then they're like, well, hang on. We have black people. There's Terry over there. Say hi to Terry. He just moved in the other day. And it's like, it's all right. He's in the affordable housing area. And there's only 2 houses there, but we're inclusive. You see what I'm saying? Like we make these weird, like not any of us here, but like white Americans make like these exceptions and the codify it in the law to make these sort of financial and economic exclusions and separate themselves from these things. But when black Americans or against colonialism like advocate for these type of things for themselves, it's like, well, hang on, wait a minute, this is totally unacceptable. But don't look at this gated community over here. This majority white has been majority white since the 1960s. Like, don't look there. Be mad at them. They're the bad. It's like, come on, man. Like, you can't. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, I'm not a fan of gated communities either, just to be frank. I genuinely do think this is like destructive, especially. I don't even think it's that many people that are involved in this, in the grand scheme of things. But I do, somewhat care for their well-being. I think this is just a complete misstep, and it's not to point, blame at these people for doing something, in the spirit of it. I agree with, and feel, but there is a reality that they have to face with doing this.
I mean,
Like, it's okay, guys. You go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll find a way. They don't have to like start like building whole infrastructure. They could like I'm sure they had to drive out there. They could be living out their vans. They're probably going to be driving back and forth in between, unless they try to declare it a sovereign state, like how Native Americans have their land designated for them, and it's a sovereign. Yeah. Wait, no. Yeah. They're establishing it as a sovereign state. Yep. So yeah, they're still going to be. It's going to be an area where as long as they are able to do commerce with the rest of America, the rest of Colorado, I'm sure they'll be fine. It's just that in the short term, they'll have problems. But, say they figure out how to, like they could have trailer parks out there, for all I know.
I see your face, Kaz. What's your thoughts?
Just because of the word that was used, or the term, sovereign state. I mean, that's not what that is.
Yeah, like it's
that's
not
what that is.
like
right?
That's what they're
calling it.
this up.
In the article, they're declaring it a sovereign state.
You can call it that.
Well, no, like I'm
like they have no borders.
I'm reading.
Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, they have no.
I'm reading through their. Oh, sorry, Prime. You go ahead.
Okay. All right. Sure. Yeah, they have no borders that they can enforce, right? That's not a thing, right? They are landlocked within the United States. They have to, like, if they need these water rights, who are going to go to an American judge, to work that out for them? What? At what point is this a sovereign state, right? Like
Negotiation.
in negotiation.
No, okay.
All right.
Negotiations.
There's nothing.
You can
like hold up. There's nothing to negotiate for. Like, here's what's gonna happen. Like, they're gonna hold this land. They're gonna miss a few payments, a few if the government's happy in letting them miss a few, right?
What are you
And then they're
talking
gonna be
about?
like, oh yeah, we're gonna lose the land. Like, they don't have any leverage for negotiation.
They'll only lose the land if they don't have the finances to back it up. But apparently they
Does
have
that sound
people
like
who
a
are
sovereign
supporting it
state?
monthly
Sorry.
on Patreon.
Yeah, that's not a sovereign state. Listen,
Well,
listen. That's
yeah.
not that's not a sovereign state. They may be trying to like set that up, but they are nowhere near close to a sovereign state. When like, yo, your your contributions are coming from Discord. That all that means is like, yo, one bad month or two. How the fuck are we gonna pay for our 200 acres?
Even
Like one bad year or two. Like,
They already bought it.
E-
Apparently. What do you mean?
even if they actually, so I have no idea if they still making payments on this thing. So I have no idea of like leasing it or whatever. Like, I don't know what is going on. But even if they bought it, right? Like like the U.S. government could just at any time like take it, like just like at any time, like unless, oh yes, this really is our borders, and if law enforcement or the military comes in, will eliminate them. If that's what they're
or
saying.
to your point, Prime,
Yeah.
to reinforce something that you said, like what, like, because this happens to a lot of Black communities who own land. Like the government can go, or a company can go, hey, we're trying to build this pipeline, and it's right through your community. Can we just buy the spot? And then they'll go, well, you can go fuck yourself. And it's like, okay, well, we'll see you in court. And then it's like, you got pipeline court money because we will sue you till you're economically unviable.
I mean, like, and that's the thing. Like, when they sue them, they don't even have to win. They can literally just sue them like into bankruptcy by having the lawsuit go so long. Like, that's a thing they use.
What would they sue them for?
Well, the thing is, like, you can make a deal. It's so shady. I'll post some shit in post after. Like, one example in Atlanta, or I think it was Atlanta, no, Tennessee, that a family had a plot of land that was inherited through generations, and then the lawyer found a single piece of paperwork that they were supposed to file back in, I want to say, like the 20s or 30s, and then they used that as the leverage that the land that they had was invalid. So then, like, even though they tried to buy it, the government said, well, actually, they don't own the land altogether, so you can just do whatever you want. So then, like, it went back to the government, and then they just bought it from the government.
Wow.
Like, shit like that.
And you guys think this is gonna be a lawsuit? Do you not see their part of their code is they say no cops, no rent, no coronavirus. Like, I think this is gonna end like way more violent than a lawsuit if it was supposed to end.
Y'all are
The
looking
law
at, y'all
enforcement
gotta
is not
look,
gonna wait for them.
no, y'all gotta look at their constitution, because in their constitution,
Mm-mm.
they literally, Article 1, we believe the colonized proletariat should have dictatorship over our lives, labor, and resources. They're actively calling for a dictatorship. Whether they mean it like that or not, that would be cause for the U.S. government to come in and be like, no.
So
This
I'm
is
not
the
sure-
first step to the Black Akatsuki. Come on, stop. Hey, y'all know this is true, bro. Y'all know what they're doing, bro. Y'all know. Look at them.
Okay, so
Look at
so
him, bro. I'm not
I
fooled.
want to do three things. First, I want to welcome our friend Yeshu Gambit, who had to come a little late. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll get to you soon. Then I also want to go to Lyra. I think you had something to say previously, so I want to make space for you. And then I also have a question that I'll get to later. But Lyra, please.
Okay, so I want to kind of go back into like my thoughts about this separatism, because it's like, okay, we're already talking about the ways in which, like, one, you know, how this those states, wherever they want to call themselves, like, how is this going to last? How is it like, and how dangerous it is? Because there's a whole nother avenue that's points to like how dangerous this Black Hammer group, their region, their town, wherever they're going to call themselves is, because it's like, okay, they're declaring themselves like, okay, this is an ethno state. This is where all colonized people, that's the terms that they use. This is where we're all going to go and make our own jobs, make our own business, make our own homes. And they're, like, I get the sentiment, one, but they are fully just placing an entire bullseye on their head. Because, like, as we've seen throughout history, there is not America doesn't have a very good track record of taking care of regions where they, you know, declare themselves like, okay, this is a safe space for people of color. Like, I mean, think about what happened to Black Wall Street. So that's one way, the way in which I don't like what they're doing, because, like, they're trying to help people of color, but they're putting a giant target on them and putting a giant bullseye on them, and, like, people are going to get hurt. And another thought that I want to talk about separatism is like, okay, we talked about the issue of gated communities throughout the United States, where it's like, okay, people are upset that like they're saying, okay, we only want people of color to live in this region, white people are not allowed. But there are plenty of regions in America where they're just like, where they don't say it exactly, but because various laws and things in place, it's basically only white people allowed, or and so on and so on. And like I have an issue with those gated communities as well, of course, but I don't see, like, when you decide, okay, I'm going to straight up block myself off and declare it that way, I don't see that as productive. It's not really doing anything to attack the mechanics of systemic racism in place. It's effectively just running away from it. I don't see it as productive to helping people. Also, I really think it's honestly a waste of time, because like there are plenty of communities that are filled with people of color that you could just go in and help. You could just help. That I think there's a way more. I get the sentiment, but there's a way more safe and productive way of going about what they want to achieve. And I think that what they're doing is just honestly ridiculous. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about my thoughts on separatism.
But Lyra, I'm
like
worried
that.
about the crime. I want to live in this gated community because the crime in my area is so high.
There will be.
Yeah, I know crime is at 2%, but I'm saying it's so high. I see it everywhere.
crime
So-
with
Wait, 1 second. Though. Like, I don't like the idea of us like kind of normalizing this concept about United States having its horrible track record against people who, against I guess vulnerable people, and then therefore say anybody trying to be separatist in any fashion is like doing themselves a disservice by putting a bullseye on their head.
I don't think that.
Right, because then I think at that point we would be normalizing the idea that the United States can be tyrants and just go ahead and bully any person who ever wants to separate from them.
It's definitely not acceptable. But I mean, it's something we do need to be concerned about.
It's a descriptive reality of the situation. It doesn't have to necessarily be
Fanatic,
an endorsement.
I don't know. I know, but I would never ever want to make like a moral judgment about whether or not somebody's doing something wrong based on the idea that someone else is going to respond horribly and do something tyrannical. I don't know if that's ever something I would ever entertain.
Yeah, Fanatic, so you're talking about specifically like the kind of like it's like I guess like, so it's kind of understand where you're coming from. You're talking more about like we should understand what type of problems they might run into, but don't consider those problems as like a deterrent or like as a discouragement to not try. Does that make sense?
Right. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good way of paraphrasing it.
Like as an example to Lyra's point, one of the things that they have to do they're going to have to farm that land, but then how do you negotiate with the USDA in terms of getting grants and loans for those like poor seasons? When I say poor seasons, I mean like seasons where you just don't cultivate anything, or you cultivate something very poorly, and then it's like, well, I applied for this business loan, and again, like maybe we talked about this in the black farmer topic, but like the grant system for these black farmers, as an example, it's piss poor, and we even have an administration that's trying to do something, and even their loan deployment for these businesses is incredibly poor. So like the question I have is like, okay, if you're going to farm this land, that's fine, but there's going to be a point where you're going to have to communicate with the USDA in terms of like making sure you're financially taken care of in those off seasons, unless GoFundMe is that based. Like, I don't know.
It ain't gonna be that.
Yeah. But who said
They don't
have
have
to
all their
farm?
money.
Well, they have to.
No, they don't.
Yeah, like
number one, they can't. The land itself is not good enough to be farmed unless they start.
Well, that's one of the problems
start
with the land they
importing
acquired
in
without doing research,
manure.
right? Like they bought unarable land. Like that's a problem they're gonna have to face.
Well, they
So-
can.
with
They
what they're talking.
just import food.
So
Well, that's
yeah,
not
they
their
can-
goal though. They want to like be able to be self.
Yeah, like they
the
want to be
whole-
a self-sufficient like city or a community or shit. They're gonna have to learn how to farm, and they pick like probably some of the worst land they could have.
Baby steps.
True. So there's all sorts of sovereign states that are like landlocked and surrounded by other countries. I mean, not a lot, but there's a few of those, right? So you obviously have like Vatican City. Then you also have there's another one inside of Italy, and then you have Lesotho within South Africa. And these are like independent sovereign states that are surrounded by like other places. So like it's not like this is unheard of. And sometimes within those places, then you might end up doing things like outsourcing your food in like that being your primary source of food. But just because of the fact that like maybe your food supply is like given by another place or generated by another place does not mean that it's necessarily it interferes with your sovereignty. That's not what that is. Sovereignty only refers to government, but your economy can function in various ways and be integrated with like several surrounding places. If you think that the average country in the world right now is sovereign such that they aren't wholly dependent on other people for various things, you're sadly mistaken. A very obvious example of that, really quickly, would be something like us when it comes to microprocessors and chips. We literally don't produce the type of chips that we need for like cell phones and the advanced ones for cars and so on and so forth. Those are literally exclusively done by Taiwan. So that's something that's literally a national security threat, such as Biden has been talking about it recently. And now whatever. I don't have to go into all that. My point being, wholly being dependent on something like that does not necessarily mean that you're not a sovereign
don't
state.
we know?
However, I understand the point that you guys are making, that they obviously needed to have thought about these things. So again, I totally think that the way they're going about it is ridiculous. That video you showed me from that Twitter dude looks like he literally and figuratively looks like a clown. Both of those things sound absolutely absurd, but I don't want to undermine the idea and the concept of black separatism, but I do recognize like how ridiculous they're going about it and how foolishly they're acting.
Listen,
I think
you
the
guys
disconnect.
are being so negative. You guys are being so negative. This is baby steps. They're gonna start off just like they may aim to be independent, but they have a constitution and they can always amend it. There's plenty of sovereign independent states: Puerto Rico, Haiti. What else? The Bahamas.
Wait.
But we
Isn't
gotta
Puerto
hold on,
Rico a territory of America?
There's
but we also gotta remember
sovereign.
Yeah.
They're still sovereign.
But we got to remember that the United States has literally
here's a list.
Fucked Puerto Rico so far up the ass that
I don't care.
Their sphincter is the size of Texas. Like
Black Hammer is not Puerto Rico,
right? But we literally tested contraceptives on Puerto Ricans so that for the goal, right? The goal of that project, I'm talking about Operation Bootstrap, was to literally make Puerto Rican women infertile. And we were almost there. We were at, I think, like 50 to 60% before we shut down that program. Like, that's insane numbers. And then like we tested those contraceptives, and then like now, because we tested these contraceptives on the entire nation of people for a sample size, now we're gonna like widespread bring this out to the Americas, where it's like, oh, these things are safe because we literally tested it on Puerto Rican people. And that's like, and I mean, if Beamer was here, he would talk about it too, because like one of the things that happened with Operation Bootstrap, right, was that the American government literally would try to embolden the Puerto Rican economy in terms of jobs and stuff like that. But the problem was they brought in jobs that weren't able to be cultivated on the land of Puerto Rico. So they brought these manufacturing jobs. It's like, okay, that's cool, but this isn't what Puerto Rico is all about. Like, this is not what we're like. This is not what we can build within this economy. Like, we can do sugar. Like, we're really good at sugar. We're still really good at sugar Puerto Rico. Like, they're still incredible when it comes to sugar production, and they're still like one of the biggest importers of sugar in the United States. Unfortunately, for Black Hammer, one thing that I wish they were better at talking about when they talk about these things on their streams is just the idea of like, look, you can have a farm, but you're still going to have to get like animals imported into your region. And then you're going to have to figure out, okay, how do I make sure that cattle, whether it be cows or chickens or pigs or turkeys or whatever you decide to produce, can still survive on that land. So then like you're going to have to expand outside that 200 acres pretty quickly, especially if you're trying to make a city that's designed to feed people. Like, that's the one thing I'm really pilled on, where it's like, how like
where are we getting? Who says they're building a city?
They are.
They
do.
No, they're building. They're not building. So when we think of city, you think of New York, you think of L.A. They might even be. They can build a small
town,
territory town. I already said they could have trailer homes. They could have. They could be living out of
shit
cars.
is called Hammer City.
But the rhetoric is.
Don't mean it's gonna be stealing.
They got a picture of a bunch of fucking huts on the hillside.
So huts
with some shit.
Living like, they don't go real. They don't go real basic now, and then 100 years.
Actually, don't get semantical on us. Like,
Yeah.
This is a semantic argument.
No, it's not. Oh, I know it is, and I'm saying you shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a semantic argument. So the definition of a city is a town of significant size or an urban area with self-government. And if they're going to be an urban area with self-government, then they would be a city. That's why we shouldn't be getting semantical over here.
And their name
Well,
is Hammer
something-
City.
It's literally
Well,
Hammer City.
something
It's a
that I
city.
think- Yeah, something that I think would be cool, right? If I were to steel man this, right? Something that I think they are like just strong as possible. Something that I think would give people like, oh, they're actually serious if they had like if they're collaborating with actual city planners on this. But unfortunately, if you want to get a team of city planners to help build your infrastructure and help you build something that's sustainable, you're gonna have to, pay them. And on top of that, you're gonna have to find a way to keep them when you finally like complete your infrastructure project. Because one of the things that I'm just like, they don't have city planning experience. And on top of that, unless they're hiding their power level and they all go, surprise, we all have our MBAs in planning and administrative government. It's like,
No,
but
they're
that
not.
doesn't.
They haven't figured
Come
out
on,
water yet.
There
There's
we
no
go,
way to-
Joe.
And
There
the
we go,
biggest
Joe. Start to imagine black. No, start
Now, listen,
imagine the hidden village of Hammer City, man. I'm telling you.
They don't
Listen,
have all their
I'm
money for
joking
their
now.
city
It's
even.
funny.
They have like
It's-
$65,000 raised in 9 months out of like $500,000. So if they're currently on this land, they're doing a payment plan, some kind of installment plan. So they still are subject to like, missing a payment here and there. And so far, it just looks like they have Patreon, Venmo, Cash App, like. So that is just to clarify that point. They are on borrowed time essentially until they get $500,000. If that's the goal that they set, it might be a
And
little
you
bit
still
lower.
have to pay property taxes on that land, right? So
Yeah, and maybe I don't know if Prime brought it up or Baja brought it up, but something else that just really it's just the rhetoric around it, right? Where I understand you're excited when you get like something, right? Like we're all excited, like, yeah, I just opened up my business. And it's like, great, let's fucking go. And then it's like, shit, we gotta like
Do stuff.
do stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, like
There's
once you get
other
over that
stuff.
first hurdle, once you get over that first hurdle, because I'm sure it feels amazing. Where it's like we like strive to do this thing. We have 200 acres. This is incredible. And for me, like I'm just like, all right, let's go to work. Like every day you're working towards this thing. And this is why I think from a PR standpoint, it's that like for me to see that they're actually serious, every single piece of content should be revolved around them working. And I understand there might be some repercussions of that, right? Because the FBI is just like sitting there like, interesting. I know some colonized people.
Someone
Like,
brings up the perfect point really quickly, and I think,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that I've been driving at. I love when other people can put my words there because there's always these thoughts, and I say them, but then like there's just so much undermining things that I just can't express all wholly. But they asked the question: are we doubting this group of black people or a group of black people? And I think that's my point that I keep wanting to say. The thing that I keep trying to stress is that like even if I don't like these individuals, even if I don't like the clown idiot that's doing the video on Twitter, right? Like, or if it seems like they're executing this as poorly as possible, like, so I'm gonna say this is a failure if it turns out to be a failure. But I don't want to ever undermine the idea of separatism in general, even though that's not my belief, that's not my system, that's not the way I want to live. I totally understand black people that want to be that way, specifically because of the insane amount of systemic oppression and racism that we still experience on a daily basis today, 2021. It's not going nowhere. It's not gone. I totally get why we would feel that way. It seems like a lot of time liberals are just not doing a job of actually trying to actually advance the cause of African Americans. So far, I've seen some pretty positive things out of the last 5 months or so. But overall, I'm expecting a lot, and I doubt they're going to deliver. Liberals typically are DiGiorno, so I get why niggas would say I want to separate. So that I just want to make sure that that's crystal clear. I might not like these niggas, but that don't mean that I'm ever going to just stand against the idea or the concept.
Ninjas.
Oh,
Ninjas.
like
Fanatic.
I agree 100% with Fanatic. That's why when I made my opening, I was like, I don't want it to like detract from like. I agree, people should be able to do this. I just really fucking hate their rhetoric. I think like most of it's pretty fucking dog shit. I read their website and shit. It's dog shit. But I want people to be able to do this and shit. Like,
yeah, like Pyro, to your point, like one of the reasons why I am Okay, here we go. The reason why I'm NFAC pilled is that they've shown that, like, in a very short amount of time, that they are serious about what they're doing. And that is something that even organizations outside of the NFAC that critique them, like, you can critique the NFAC all you want, but you cannot deny that the rhetoric that Grandmaster Jay goes about, and the way that he talks about things, the way that he mobilizes his people, it's some serious shit. And then even when people try to, like, paint them like, well, they're just like look at them, they're so, like, disorganized. And it's like, this is the only black militia that people can look at, and then even within their rhetoric, it's like, we're here to protect people because there's a power vacuum between the police and protesters, and this is why we're here. This is what we're doing. We have set plans when we go places, and we do that thing. And then even when people try to paint them in a bad light, like, the one thing that, like, which was really magical to see, like, I'm a big fan of our boy JLP. Like, he tries his best to advocate for black people, but Grandmaster Jamie and that boy looked like a child. It was just, like, crazy how rhetorically consistent he is when he talks about things. And something to relate it back to Black Hammer, rhetorically, it's very, very poor, especially when you're trying to advocate for something. Where now, if I see that crazy clown shaking Jay's hand, then it's like, oh shit, we're fucked. Because then it's like, you don't really need law enforcement if you have the NFAC behind your back. But then they literally said they don't fuck with him. So it's like, well, actually, to Jay's words, he's like, I don't play with children. And it's like, oh shit, Jesus. Like,
Damn.
So
I mean,
Yo, Joe, I love you for pointing this out to me. I didn't know that this existed, this Grandmaster Jay and Jesse Lee Peterson, but you know I gotta check that out. Man,
Oh, it's some capital
that
C
really
content.
exists. I
Well, I
thought
didn't
he
know-
was memeing.
That's real. Oh my god.
I
Yeah,
gotta check this
like-
out. I thought you were memeing for sure.
Yeah, Grandmaster.
No,
Grandmaster
that's
Jay, the
someone
leader
real.
of the NFAC, had a conversation with Jesse Lee Peterson.
It is literally the best thing on the internet. You guys really like. This is someone who like just takes Jesse Lee
It's
Peterson.
up there between that for me and the interview between Candace Owens and Blair White. Those two they're up there with me for capital C content.
So, all right, I want to jump back into this. One, is there anyone who is like for like this project? Like, would you like to see, if not this project in particular, a project like this succeed anywhere else? And what does succeeding look like? Right. So there's not really, unless, I mean, there's no land, new land that isn't owned by some like nation, right? So you're gonna have to take land from another one, right? So like, what does success look like if we were able to take this project seriously? Like, what would happen, right? And not even like complete success, like a fully functioning nation. Like, what would the steps be? What would it look like to see like this project or a project like it actually succeeding in the future? What do y'all think? Baha?
Money.
Okay.
Money. So I guess to answer the first part of the question, I'm like down with black separatism, although I never think that creating like some kind of like state like this, like some kind of ethnic state or some like land that you just want to cultivate without having a significant amount of money will ever be the way. I would much rather people operate within the current system and isolate themselves. Minorities can isolate themselves and wherever, is culturally stronger. So you know what? If all black people wanted to move to Atlanta, I'm down for that. I think that's like a vibe. I think that's super cool. But
I'm not
like
going
what's
to that.
doing
Just
this
redneck.
doing
I'm
this
sorry.
landlocked shit is no good unless you have a shit ton of money. The fact that Black Hammer is raising money actively while also embarking on this is like the worst sign to me. Because obviously everything that needs to be done to have a self-sufficient landmass needs fucking cash. You need like all the things that we've been talking about. Buying water rights, importing animals, getting people to actually, do labor that is necessary to establish your state, like city planners Joe was talking about. All of this stuff requires stuff that they do not have, and it will actively gate every action they try to take from now on. So if we want any kind of measure success, I think the first barrier is having, if it takes $500,000 to get a similar plot of land in Colorado, if someone had that first, even if they're wearing clown makeup and acting like a fucking fool on Twitter, like I'd be more down for that because at least there's some kind of backing there that lead to progress. So, Money.
So you
That's
mean that
my
Elon Musk
number
shit?
one thing.
That like you think I'm crazy, but I have my fucking tunnel, you fucking weebs.
He does have the
It's like-
tunnel at the end of the day.
I,
and that's crazy,
have
right?
I have my future car and my rockets, and I'm being stupid. Checkmate.
Yeah. I think something that, to your point, I am a big advocate of cultivating and revigorating communities that have betrayed the United States government has betrayed. Like I look at West Virginia as a prime example of that, where there needs to be a reimagination of what the West Virginian infrastructure could look like and be. And there and what's unfortunate is that we see companies like Amazon, like Google, like insert, I don't fucking know, like Microsoft. They look at these areas and go, oh shit, we can give them jobs to invigorate their communities. And it's like, well, this Amazon is cool, but I still live in a food desert. And it's like, there's a Whole Foods.
What is
It's
a
like,
desert?
what's that?
You have a lack of access to healthy, consistent foods.
Yeah, your
Usually
local food
there's
places
like
like
a
McDonald's. It's like not like you're. I think isn't it like technically like what 10 miles out if you're away from like a grocery store? What is the? There's like
maybe
a technical
five. I
number.
don't remember
but
off the top of my head.
if
But
you're
like
that far away,
what
it's a food desert.
yeah, so like what Amazon would do, an example of this, because they're fucking Amazon terrifying, is like they'll build a warehouse in like a town or township in West Virginia, and then they'll build a Whole Foods because they own Whole Foods. And then it's like, oh, you can
Sorry.
participate in the 365 for
We keep moving
What's
away
that?
from the topic. I just want to like.
well, yeah, no, I'm saying like I guess to center it in, like I think something that we could do for me to see it realized is something where you cultivate a community that needs to be cultivated. I don't think it's possible or politically viable to create something separate and then build it from scratch. But I think if you find an area that is under an economic downturn and infuse money into that system, or just like buy out the businesses at basically bottom dollar because these aren't things that people are going to buy. I think that's a way that you can do that.
Is
Now,
that separatist? Being separatist though, like.
That sounds like a lot more like the idea of just kind of maybe reforming and doing some form of reparations, which I'm also on board with, by the way. But to answer Prime's question, the way I believe, right? Like I look at this country and I know that this is literally the most powerful country in the world. We are in the most powerful country in the world, the most successful country in the world, in various ways, and the things that we actually try to succeed at. One of those things we try to succeed at is oppressing brown people. Black and brown people. But it's a very successful country. So as opposed to the idea of like separating, I am always going to be from the idea of reconciling in some form or fashion with like a very strong amount of social programs like meant to like right a bunch of the wrongs and a very strong reparation system that allows other people to be able to actually thrive so that now we can actually take part in the American dream, because that's what's being excluded from a lot of black people in this country still to this day. So for me, because of that, I'm always going to be in favor of reconciliation. However, I understand not everyone thinks the way I do. And part of my idea, when we start talking about freedom, and when we start talking about tolerance and acceptance, it's going to be accepting that not everyone's going to have that same thing. I have a very, as a Christian, I have a very forgiving nature. So when someone does something wrong to me, it's easy for me to turn the other cheek or to be able to look at it and say, okay, like I'm going to leave that one with God and he'll be the vengeance, right? But I understand not everybody lives the way I do. And there are plenty of people who, instead of reconciling, who would much sooner say, I'd rather just be separate, not dependent, not reliant, not interacting with this government, because it seems like this government for centuries has been incredibly toxic towards black people. So with that being said, I get that, and I would never ever want to be a voice against that. Do I think it's the smartest way? Do I think it's the best way? Do I think it's the most practical? Do I think it's the most likely or the most tenable? Probably not, but I'm never going to be the voice that's going to speak against that, because I understand what the idea of separatism is rooted in, and I understand the conditions that led to it, so I can never be the voice against it. If that answers your question.
What did Martin Luther King say about a burning building? I'm afraid I've introduced my people into a burning building. Listen, maybe this is their way out the fire. So right now they're in the very early stages, Black Hammer. So to answer Prime's question, yes, I do find initiatives like this. I find them purposeful. Who's to say it might turn into something good later on? I don't even know if it's just an ethno state. They have like Pacific Islander, Asian, African American. I'm pretty sure they have Hispanic. So it's multi-ethno. It's a It's supposed to be like a safe haven for the colonized people. All right. So I doubt there will be any white people there. So maybe it's an ethno exclusionist area. Maybe you can make that a term. But yeah, as long as they figure out how to get the necessary resources to live, as long as they can enlist a black proletariat, get some skills in there. If they get some people who understand law, enlist some of those underfunded, underpaid black lawyers. They can get some private groups from the NAGA, the National African American Gun Association. I'm listen. I don't know how long. I would need to see how long. How long have they been out in Colorado? A couple months. Was it?
They started at the start of COVID. Like their Twitter account first.
The start of COVID. So it's like so they've been here for a year. They've been there for a year. So it's I'm going to give them like the determination of the success of a small business. I'll give them, if they can survive out there for at least 5 years, there may be hope for them yet. And you never know, if where they failed, maybe the next black organization. Apparently, KTM in the chat was talking about the Georgia Initiative. They're not separatists per se, but they're the Freedom Georgia Initiative. It's kind of like a light group. They have an area out in Georgia. They've built it. They're living out of trailers. They're living out their cars. They've built a plotted land. They're feeding people, and they've been successful. So I'm not too quick to say yeah, they're goofy. They don't know what they're doing. It's gonna fail. Yeah, I'm not quick to pass any judgments yet. Hopefully, where they succeed, others will find the courage to do so as well.
Yeah, so these people are clowns. I don't know why Ezzy is going so light on this. They claim to be communists, which is already clown shit, and then a Twitter video like
not just communists, man. They're black communists. Come on now.
It's just as stupid. It's actually doubly stupid to me. But like first off, yeah, these people are idiotic. So we can. I think what Fanatic is saying is good, right? We can try to say, hey, the idea potentially merit, and just every implementation that we've seen is absolutely stupid. Almost all of them have. The NFAC was okay. I think I had some problems with it. I was going to talk to Joe about it. I can't remember what they are right now. We do it at a different time. But I think I'm like Fanatic. I generally understand the sentiment, though I could never agree with it. But to answer Prime's question, there's a lot of cities in this country that are majority black. And it's not separatist per se because they aren't drawing a boundary and trying to kick all white people out, right? But there are lots of places in this country where black people are the like 99.9% majority, and they don't own the businesses there. And if someone was to move in and take over ownership of the businesses and start to try and produce their own stuff, it would be somewhat like a black ethno state, but it wouldn't be with the current principles that a lot of these groups take, where they're like, they try to advertise themselves as like exclusionists and things like that. So I think that that's a more fruitful way to try and get there, to like not organically, but yes, organically try to. You said what?
It's not just black people here. I don't know why they're named black ethnos. Look at them. There's some Asian people here.
But that's not the question that Prime asks. That's not. Like, I'm talking.
I know, but why we keep calling it a black ethno state?
Because I'm answering Prime's question. I'm not answering yours that wasn't asked, right? So Prime's specific question was about black ethno states. Yeah, his question was about the veracity of like a black ethno state and what could it look like. So I'm not going to talk about these clowns that you want to talk about, but but yeah, Prime, that's how I think it could be done. I think that this is fortunate, but I think that at least in my experience in the places that I've lived, the more and more black people start to click up and definitely become successful, white people tend to leave. And whether that's due to like implicit biases or whatever, like that doesn't matter, right? But that seems to be a trend that if you find an area that's predominantly black, there's probably not going to be a lot of white people there. So if black people did, if people had this ideology and they went to one of these cities that are already predominantly black and they started to manifest and things like this, I think that those white people would leave that are still there anyway. So I think that would be more of an organic way. It's not with the common like disgusting rhetoric that they have, but I think it would be the same end goal at least.
Yeah, to your point, Gambit, like, where my Jerseyans at? East Orange, stand up, baby. Fucking
Nah,
90%. Oh, it's like it's
nah,
projected.
East Orange.
No, but hear me out. Hear me out. It's projected to be over 90% Black and African American after the census. Did you hear
That's
what I
crazy.
just fucking said?
That's actually insane.
White Americans in East Orange is less than 5%.
The
That
white
is
fleet.
insane. and then like people like I mean I dog on East Orange too, but if at any point the material conditions of those Americans in East Orange were met in a way that is sufficient, that's a majority black city. and it
Can't
would,
fight
and then
you
like
there.
what would happen? Yeah, and then what would happen is like you'd be like, "Oh my god, why are all these black people here?" And it's like, well, I mean, do you want to look at the
We thriving.
districting or do you want to look at
Yeah.
the like
Yeah.
and we have a lot of areas like that in New Jersey. Like there's Roselle, well, Roselle Park, Trenton, Newark. Like these are areas that are majority black, and then they kind of get, I don't want to say that they get ignored by the government. And then what happens is like it just takes like one administration to turn this around, or a group of individuals, maybe even a black hammer adjacent, who would just like
Jesus.
influx resources into these communities and embolden them. And this is like the same take I had months ago that I got dragged on. It's like if we meet the conditions of Americans, like we're gonna see this already. And are people going to be comfortable with that? Like,
East Orange is right by South Orange.
Yeah.
You know,
I
and who
think
lives in
they'll
Livingston,
be
Tiger Woods?
comfortable.
I think
You
people that
So-
oh no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was gonna say really quickly, you start getting very successful black men in an area, and of course, all the white people are gonna move. They got to protect their wives. You know what I'm saying?
boy.
Like,
Oh, boy.
Not again.
Oh, boy.
I refuse to be a part of this again.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, when Fanatic was talking, I
No.
was gonna meme. I was gonna say the reason why he doesn't want to live in the ethno state because there's no white wives.
Mm-mm.
Gotta
Yeah,
fly out the
but,
country for
bro.
that.
But so I think that if the
We
people
need the
that do
bad
have
people.
these ideas, I think that they should look for political power in some of these disadvantaged areas and just organically grow. I really don't understand why the rhetoric has to be so exclusive if the goal is just to create a place that's beneficial to black people. Like maybe they feel like these ideas are mutually exclusive to them. But
I actually agree with you, Gambit, and I think that's the first time I've said that on this panel.
you're now based.
100,
You're now-
yeah, like 100%. Like, yeah, look at this, like the parts of your city that they just ignore. I know from my city specifically in New York, like it's the entire east side. So far, it's become a meme where it's like you go on Main Street and the roads are paved. You go on like east of Main Street, completely fucked, and it's like, yeah. Y'all already have the infrastructure here. It may not be an autonomous zone like y'all want, but like, goddamn, if you won't have any influence in these people's lives that you help, like they'll be thankful. Trust me.
and even like when I look at Atlantic City, that is still in control of the okay. TLDR, the state legislature and the governor's office controls the local government of Atlantic City. It's probably going to extend it another 4 years, and they're building infrastructure to improve the conditions of Atlantic City. But then when you look at the demographics, it's another minority white area where in the 2010 census it was around 25%. It's projected to be even lower than that now, somewhere in like the 20 to 15%. So, and for black Americans in the 2010 census, it was 38% black, and then right behind them at somewhere in the like 15 to 20% were Asian Americans. So we're gonna see like majority areas when these places get emboldened. And the last thing you want listen, like the last thing you want is some like Grand Theft Auto shit where the blacks control the casinos in New Jersey. Like, but it's
What's
that's a
wrong
story
with
for another
that?
day, though.
See, this is why I don't like.
I think there's
You
nothing
guys are
wrong with that.
undercover white people, I
but-
swear. Fanatic out here advocating for white women. GSU is just being a hater. And
No,
Joe,
please don't.
Joe,
No, don't
Joe is
mischaracterize
making
me.
Grand Theft Auto.
No, don't
Grand Theft
mischaracterize
Auto.
me.
You
It's not.
come
It's not
on.
white. No, it's not white women in general. It's specifically white married women who are married to white men. Specifically, I think it's very, very clear.
So
Number one,
you a white
my
adulterer. That's what you saying.
Azzy,
white
no.
Get that
Okay.
out of here, bro. Get
Why
that
you
out
gonna
of here,
why you
bro.
gonna why you gonna
Hey.
mischaracterize?
Oh,
keep
Don't
being-
mischaracterize my man Fanatic like that. He didn't
100%.
say
No,
he was
for some of
going for
y'all,
married white
listen.
women. He was saying that
Y'all
the
was
men
making
is
fun of that
scared that they
clown.
go for the married
Y'all was making fun of that clown. Y'all was making fun of that clown in the Twitter video. Some of y'all sounding real clownish right now. Listen, we need to tell the
But,
truth,
oh,
bro.
being 100% real, like I made enough memes now. I was gonna say really quickly, like the same way that we're talking about these people, I want you to understand that this wouldn't be the first time that somebody has done something like this, right? Because we obviously had like a Brigham Young, who like decided like, hey, we want to move to Utah, and this is gonna become like a Mormon state, and like this is where we'll be able to live and like separate from the rest of the country because he'd been like ostracized from virtually every community for all of his shiesty ways. And when he first landed in Utah, that was one of the biggest problems, is that they could not grow crops there. So it was like, I don't know how you guys are going to survive out here. And I don't know. Eventually, life found a way. It's crazy. Satan is real. So now Utah is like super duper duper Mormon. They have like, while it's not sovereign, but it's very much like they were very obviously separatists. They very much wanted to live away from the rest of the country, and so on and so forth. So this is something, my point is, just because something doesn't look arable in the beginning, where there's a will, there's a way. I don't want to just dismiss it outright. I think this seems awful. I don't have high predictions. I don't. Like, it seems like they're just putting the cart before the horse here. But again, I get the conditions that lead to it. I myself could never do it, but I get it. I respect them niggas for doing it, for finally saying enough is enough. I don't know what it's going to take to get the eye of this government to recognize that we probably need to do something about what's happening. The George Floyd Justice and Police Act is amazing. Ice Cube contract for Black America is amazing, and it's crazy to me that we never got any like really pointed legislation against hate crimes all this time. You knew it was coming, Prime. And it's crazy that we haven't gotten that all this time, but then agents get it almost immediately. It's crazy. We need to do something.
okay. All right.
You
Well,
can't
one
be
thing that-
quoting
wait,
Dr.
wait,
Umar
hold on.
and then hate. You
Yazzie.
can't quote Dr. Umar and then hate on Black Hammer. That just sounds
Yeah,
like
Umar
that's
is
a duelist.
stupid too.
Okay.
Like, hold on, wait.
All right. Well, pulling back to the topic.
Please, it's
because
fine.
I'm sure
Thank
what
you.
Prime was about to
I
say.
wanted to say one
I
thing though,
wanna-
because one thing that y'all skipped over though, like a lot of people have been attacking that they bought this land that cannot be cultivated easily. If a group is gonna buy some land though, it's not like they're gonna really buy like downtown Atlanta. So I don't really like, they're clowns. First off, like, I'm not defending them, but if you are following these ideas that they have, you're probably gonna buy a land that is not as wanted by others to get this big of a chunk, right? So it makes sense to me that the people that follow along these ideas end up with resources that aren't the best, because usually they don't have a lot of funding. Like, these people literally have GoFundMe's, right? So I don't really take a dig at them for the land that they bought, because they're gonna have, if they want to be able to have this isolationist culture, they're gonna need a nice chunk of land. It's not gonna be in downtown LA, right? So that's the only thing I'll point to. But these people are still clowns. They're idiotic.
Well, like,
I just wanna make
I'm
that
glad
clear.
you made that. Like,
Well,
I'm glad you
sorry,
made
no,
that
let
point.
me-
Oh, sorry, I'll let
Lyra
Lyra go. Sorry.
first, and then
Yes, thank you. All right, so answering Prime's question, which is like basically, what does success look like? What is a way in which, like, you know, cultivating a place that is like safe for a community, uplifting a community? What does success in that narrative look like? And to me, success looks like productivity. And what do you mean by productivity, Lyra? I mean, how many people are actually being helped by this, and how many people have the potential to be helped, like, in the future? And so I don't have specifically a problem with like communities blocking themselves off because like we have indigenous tribes, we have Mormons as we were just talking about, we have the Amish, and I don't think there's anything like wrong with them separating themselves. So it's not like it's the narrative of separating yourself that I have an issue with in general, but in this specific narrative that Black Hammer is using, my gripe is mostly with how productive is what they're doing. Like how productive is their project going to be in the future? So in my head, like throughout this time, I've been kind of like trying to deliberate, what's the difference between what Black Hammer is doing and what the Black Panthers did. And when it comes to productivity and when it comes to what it looks like success. Obviously, Black Panthers won't completely perfect, but in my head, it's like, all right, let's compare the two. Where's the real difference? And I think when it comes down to it, the difference is that like Black Panthers do like what I said earlier, which is why I think is way more sustainable and better, where they go into these communities that are already disenfranchised, already filled with all these people of color, and they help them, in their look, guys, I said Black Panthers aren't completely perfect. There's a lot of things that's wrong with the Black Panthers, but there are certain programs that they put in place in these disenfranchised communities when they went into that even continue to help people to this day, such as the breakfast program. You know how I'm always talking about children and education, and like the Black Panthers did that by going into these communities that already existed and helping them. And what they did was like they pretty much made a safe space for Black and brown people to participate in the quote unquote American dream. Allow these people to have a way to participate in society, because as we know, there are various laws and regulations and mechanics of systemic racism in place that were blocking them off. So the Black Panthers went into these communities that were disenfranchised by these things and helped them. With what Black Hammer is doing, how productive can what they're doing be in the long run? And I don't see like I just there's a way better way to go. I get the
So the
sentiment.
truth comes out.
So I got a question for
The
you, though.
blind is leading the blind. That's what the blind. Y'all can't see the vision.
Yeah, I got a question for you. So I don't necessarily think they need to be more productive than our current society. So, and I'm trying to figure out how to best to say this. So if our goal is to have a place that's, I don't want to talk about these idiots. Let's just say people that subscribe to Black separatism, right? The people that subscribe to Black separatism, their goal is to create like a safe space, like socially, and so that people can thrive. So if they were to replicate, like if they were to still have people working at the same places that you would work in an integrated community and they were still living, I would still see that as successful. So I don't think it necessarily needs to be more productive than our current society, because I think that's like they have to at least achieve where we are now, separated, and then they could try to iterate to become better. And I think that the amount of income that would take to be more successful, because they're going to be inherently competing in our capitalist world, right? So I don't think they need to be more successful. I think they need to replicate what we have.
I don't think they need to be more successful or more productive either. When I say productive, I mean specifically, sorry, I can't speak, how many people are actually, because if their goal is to help Black and brown people, right? All right, well, what they're doing in the narrative that they're pushing, how many Black and brown people can they truly help? I don't mean that they have to be more successful than New York City. I don't mean they have to be more successful than the other regions throughout Colorado. But in their narrative, how many people can they actually help going about it that the way they can? So I don't really measure productivity. I don't see productivity as being. I don't measure it with a relative scale either. I don't think it really matters. I mean, even if they're doing a little bit worse than New York City, hey, this is still a place, I mean, hopefully, for Black and brown people to succeed, because that's the goal, right? So when I say productivity, I mean specifically in regards to what their purpose is, which is to help Black and brown people. And how many Black and brown people can they actually help by separating themselves, going somewhere, and building from the ground up? I think there's a lot more Black and brown people that they can help by going into these disenfranchised communities that already exist and helping them. That's why I measure productivity.
You guys keep saying Black and brown. Colonized proletariat.
Yeah,
How many
so
colonies?
so how
It's
so
colonized. You guys kept. What are the four
Wait,
principles of
hey,
unity?
Andy, wait.
Y'all didn't do
Another-
your
Oh my
research.
god.
Another
What is
question.
Black Hammers?
No,
No,
no.
let me ask y'all
Oh
the
my
question.
goodness.
This is
No,
my
let me tell
turn
you
to ask
something real
questions.
quick, real quick.
No,
I don't know if you know.
you
No,
know.
I don't know if you know.
Say something
But
else. Go
Prime,
ahead.
no, Prime actually switched the rules yesterday, and I'm just trying to make sure you're aware of this. Prime said if it's ASI and it's a closed panel, people can pay to mute you. So I just wanted to let you know that's a new rule here.
Yes, I don't
Somebody
believe
in-
anything you say, bro. You used to be saying something, bro. I don't believe in you, bro. And you a hater too. Listen, let me ask you guys
Well,
a
what do you?
question, bro.
A question I
What
have
are
too.
Black
Like, what do you?
Hammer's four
Sorry.
principles of unity?
Oh, I got the
Oh.
website loaded up right now, bro.
Yeah, man, boot that, do that
Wow,
research,
boy.
man. The colonized proletariat. How many colonized people? Colonization did not just hit Black and brown people. It's a global thing.
Which white people
Sure.
were colonized? Which white people were colonized?
I can pull up a book on Russia. I think the Kazakhs,
Kazakhstan was
not
colonized?
not Kazakhstan. There's a difference.
Okay.
But
So I have a question.
There's been many changes in borders and different names, so things have evolved and groups have changed. Like Nepal is no longer called Nepal. It's just part of Napoleon's. There's no Nepal anymore. It's a part of India. Like there's difference and stuff, but
And when I look on my map, it still says Nepal.
I have a question
technically,
because I want to get to the really spicy part of this conversation.
Oh man.
So, they're building up so I'm gonna get back to Black Hammer. They're building up Black City or whatever you want to call it, a town or something like that.
A Hammer
They
City,
have
if you
a-
will.
They have a group.
They're building a circus, is what they're building.
They-
No, they're building a
have
Hammer City.
Hold on. So they're building a circuit. So they have a thing, right? That's called the Reparations Corps. I don't know if you got to that part of the website.
I did.
But the
$40. I did.
Reparations
please,
Corps.
no, wait, Joe,
I'm just,
please,
I
please,
just,
no,
I really
no,
want to read
no,
this.
no,
I really
please,
want to
no,
read this.
please. I read it, and
I
I
really
read it.
wanna read this.
Let's not. Oh,
I really want to read this. Are you
Okay.
white? Do you want to help? Do you want to be a good person on the right side of history? The only way you can wash the blood off the hands through following the leadership of African, indigenous, and colonized people and paying reparations for all that's been stolen in your name. Right now, Black Hammer Organization is offering several ways to pay reparations. 1, become a recruit of the Reparations Corps. 2, make monthly reparation payments. Or 3, contact us to give your skills, possessions, land, etc. as reparations.
Oh my god.
Now,
I hate Black.
my
you need to read that in a
question-
Billy Mays voice.
Now, the
I hate
question
Black
I
kids.
have.
They didn't put wives, which is blowing my mind.
I wasn't gonna say it. I was gonna say
So,
it.
No, wait. They said etc.
So the question I have, which is the same question I gave to our boy Dr. Umar Johnson in terms of building his schools, is at what point is it exploitative labor? Right? So I feel that people need to get paid for the services that they do. But one of the things that Umar Johnson argued was that if they had a black HVAC individual and like just come in here and fix the plumbing and fix the electricity and all this stuff, we'd have a fully functioning school in 3 months.
So can
And
I
I'm
play
like,
devil's advocate, Joe? I just
sure.
want to say, devil's advocate. It's not exploitive because they're asking you, right? They may be guilting you in the worst way possible, but
It's not no
you
guilt.
don't have to, right? Like they're telling you, like,
Y'all
yo, if
some
you want to
bad-
be a good person, give me like all your shit. You don't have to. No,
If you want to be
choose to.
Mal level, you got to pay $199. All right.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
so
That's what they're telling
stupid,
you to do.
man.
You
Like,
said
And the
Mao?
question is, right?
No,
so like,
Mao?
what happens?
No, that's
With
what their
Dr.
stuff
Umar,
says.
he's talking about
Yeah.
volunteering their
Yeah.
work. Wow.
Yeah.
Ways you
Talking
can
about
ways you
volunteering.
can sign up. The Mao level is $199
$99
minimum.
It's so stupid. The
Yeah,
Yeah,
Hammond
and I guess,
Circle,
and I'm
the
curious about
Hammond
Prime.
Circle is like the $15. It's so silly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I'm curious about
$200 isn't a lot of
Prime.
money.
I'm curious about Prime's thought here. Other like Prime Legend is that something that like really, I guess, red flags me a little bit is I understand that we all have different resources that we're able to provide for something, but I've always felt weird about organizations that overtly ask you to donate your services. Does that make sense? I don't know.
A little
where
bit,
it's like,
yeah.
I mean, I think
What?
going back to Dr. Umar, he's asking them to donate their skills,
right.
their services, while he pays for the tools
The tools,
and
yeah.
Yeah.
like that. That's what he's talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I feel like even with like the
which I
Umar
can
part of
get
it,
that, you know, because
yeah,
he's saying the market price, like HVAC and everything else, is like another 250,000. So what he's trying to do is limit the expenses that because he's been trying to get this school up for 6-7 years. He finally got the school,
yeah.
the land. Now he's
Yeah.
trying to
Got
get.
two of them, two
But
buildings.
what he's also saying
Yeah,
too
now
is
he's
that
trying to get. Once he gets that work completed and done, he's trying to limit the expenses so that he can get the work done and actually start going. Because obviously, it sounds like people been clapping. He was like, I guess doubtful of his intentions.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah,
no,
I guess
so,
to tie
so
yeah, I guess to
wait,
tie
Joe,
back into Black Hammer real quick. Like, I guess the question I have is that I've always felt weird about people openly asking for donations of service and like what is required of that, right? So like if Umar Johnson didn't say anything about what like the prescriptive thing that he would want. And he just said we just need like the HVAC brought up and the plumbing and the electric and then we're good to go. And then an electrician came forward and say, "Hey, I can donate my services. Could you just pay for the parts and something like that? And I'll do that for free." I feel a bit more comfortable. But what rubbed me the wrong way about the Breakfast Club is that he basically said the negotiation part out loud, which really rubbed me a weird way.
isn't it
that's
better
what
that
was
he says
offering.
this
He-
is
he
what
That's
I
offered
full
it.
transparency.
Oh,
That's what he needs.
Let you go first, and then
Yeah.
we'll go.
Yeah, that's what he was offering. He was offering exactly what you said.
Yeah, but I'm saying that if he didn't say that out loud, I would be a bit more comfortable. Is all.
Well, what if he doesn't want to be encumbered by millions
He
of
has
people
to
that
communicate.
Right.
He has
Hey, you
to,
can
he has to
yeah.
tell you what he needs done. Like,
Yeah. But I don't
What
know
are we
how to
asking
explain.
for?
I don't know how to explain the thought.
His intentions.
No,
They
it's
didn't
like
plan.
the
wait,
people
wait.
watching the breakfast show is not mind readers. They,
Yeah,
But
I
Joe,
know.
I think I
Yeah.
can understand where you're coming from. You're saying it looked exploitative because he's like, hey, black people, if you really for the culture, you'll come donate your time for free, right? So I can
What?
understand that feels exploitative, but I think
that's something else.
if you listen, but you got to listen to everything else that he talked
Right,
about in the
right.
interview, right? Because it was
Well-
like, hey, I feel like other communities do this and they become profitable, like not profitable, but they become
get the work done.
yeah, they get the work done, they thrive. Thriving is what I meant to say. They become thriving, and he's saying openly, hey, I don't have the resource for this. Can the culture help me? So if you're a person that's so motivated, you
Yeah.
can
So
come and
so
help
as in
out. I do agree with
is-
you that it sounds exploitative for sure. But
Yeah,
I think in the
it's-
context of the people that
Yeah.
understand him and what his goal is,
it just
they are on board with being exploited, if that's what we want to use.
Yeah, because to give a little bit of context of why I had this thought leading into this, I had this thought before. So in Jersey, we're dealing with some shit right now. The FBI raided a Hindu temple that's based around BAPS. TLDR, they were paying their volunteers the equivalent of $1.50 an hour. And they also withheld their passports, and also they would dock their pay and stuff like that for building. It's in Robbinsville. It's in the town over from me. If you Google BAPS Robbinsville, this temple is gorgeous. However, it hits a little different when I know these volunteers were basically in the equivalent, just basically not only on slave wages, but we had some people die. We had a 16-year-old kid from Pennsylvania who was
Jesus
volunteering
Christ.
in the temple who fell the equivalent of 5 stories.
Well, that's
And
the
that-
risk.
Right, but why is a
he was paying
16
volunteers?
Why
What's
you
that?
call them volunteers? They're not volunteers.
Well, that's what they advertise to them. They advertise you'll volunteer because they basically reached
Wait,
out to
Joe,
communities and
Sounds like some double
charity
speak, some
website.
Kamala Harris.
One thing though, Joe, we should not use the term slave wages, right? Like,
I mean, it was
You call
it was
you might as well.
$1.50.
You might as well.
I don't think that's the
what
term.
I mean. That's
no,
what I mean.
$4.25 a month. $4.25
I
a month.
particularly don't like that because
They're alive
when
on
white
the
people
line.
when white people say slave wages or they say taxation is slavery,
Yeah,
we shouldn't
but
feed
That's all
into that type
laziness.
of
This is
knowledge.
different. We're not
But I
talking
mean,
about that.
like this.
I totally
talking
agree.
400.
Yeah,
We're
we
talking
can't use slave
400
wages. We
Okay,
can't
so
use that.
all right,
term.
so we're talking $425 a month, where if you were violating certain things, like maybe you didn't wear your hat or you weren't working as hard as they expected, they would dock your pay, and they would give you $50 a month, just like for whatever, and then the rest of
this is
that
a cult.
income, they would send
This
it to
is a cult.
India.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah,
So
DSU.
like,
so,
when I
I
hear them
think
talking about like the
volunteers then.
Reparations Corps, right, and they're saying like, hey, white people, give your skills, possessions, land, and reparations. A part of me
Right.
is like, is that legal though? Like, and like, how would you go? And also, what would you do with
Reading it a bit. Not only you pay this
land, like, and
You
also
just go to
who
their
would-
house
donation.
sometimes. They need food.
It's a
bro.
donation you give willingly.
yeah.
Number
It
one,
just-
this
it-
isn't a
Even
cult.
if you're out
yeah,
of it
and
is
don't,
like
don't churches ask you? No, I'm not trying to make this relation to me. I promise. I promise. I
Yeah.
promise.
No,
But,
exactly.
like,
do it.
don't
Hey,
churches do
churches
that all the
ask you to
time?
put. Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
We can do this.
Yes.
I think we're making this
Exactly.
more complicated than it has to be. Like
These BLM riots that come.
volunteers. Like,
Yeah.
how you a
It's like-
volunteer and you getting paid? It's like
Oh, I
saying,
said
"Oh,
right,
you know, I'm
excuse
gonna
me.
buy your free phone
Yeah.
or buy your free phone."
Yeah, like come
well,
together,
listen,
we'll
this-
put like a barn together, or like we'll like put like a bake off. Like I want to like use your skills as like a cook to help us out. I don't know.
It's called community.
Yeah, it's called community.
I see you guys haven't lived in a community. Well, unfortunately, the black communities in America haven't been so pristine that we haven't had
just
access to
saying.
this, so you guys don't have the experience. But that's
I'm
what
just-
it's called.
but like,
It's
well,
what
wait,
typically
that's what
called a community. See,
I'm just
before I
saying,
was leaning,
optically-
I was trying to like I was just trying to interject earlier.
no,
Like
no, I waited long enough.
think
Now,
that's what-
before I was
I
leaving,
think that's
I was
what Umar
calling
was
the
talking
Hidden Village
about
the
too.
Black Hammer, but y'all are just so out here. Y'all are just so like
yo,
no,
the
as a-
language being used.
I'm
like-
so sorry, Prime.
Hold on,
y'all
hold on,
didn't.
hold on,
Gambit.
one second. Hold on, wait.
Hold on.
Pyro.
No, wait. Wait.
Was it American Dread? Jake
Go again.
Long? What?
Joe, no, as you stop. Joe, look, if you look in the chat right now, there's a guy arguing now that taxation above 50% is slavery. You caused that. You did that.
Look, I do it for the content, okay?
No. Taxation above 50%. Y'all voted for Biden. I wanted.
Well,
I wanted Cory
right? So,
Booker. That's
so,
y'all
like,
vote.
what would
hold on.
happen?
Can I get a word in real quick? Because like I
Yeah.
actually like spent the time reading through. It's not like they're like you're just paying and like you're donating your skills, right? You actually get stuff out of it. You get a weekly boot camp session on Wednesdays 2 to 4 Eastern time. Reparations can be paid on a sliding scale, which is like nice. Sessions will also be offered in Zoom, so like your weekly boot camps will be in Zoom. You will learn the true history of the world, what has been hidden from you, understand why reparations are key to finding your humanity and getting on the right side of history. Now, I just got to ask, like, minus the skill stuff, is it worth $199 minimum?
And you get a
What's
sick
wrong?
uniform.
190. You guys buy PS5s for 500. You can't give 199 to
See,
a community.
Whoa, we don't. Wait. There's no
Yeah, none of
we in
us.
this conversation. There's
It's
no
you.
we. We're good. We are all good.
No, we, bro. Shame on you. Shame on you.
No,
There's no we. We're in the Reparations Corps.
Shame. Shame.
Be quiet.
Shame.
If you be quiet, I will answer you. Yes, I will pay $600 for the new PS6, 5 or whatever. Right? I get more out of it. I'm sorry. I get more out of it.
All right, listen.
The alpha version. Something that steams and
And then they offer this: pay additional 25% in reparations and receive exclusive piece of Black Hammer gear. Not sure if you guys looked at their shop. It's pretty shit gear.
Listen.
Oh my.
Listen.
You're
This goes
getting
out-
land,
gotta
bro.
say,
You're getting land. Money comes
This
with
goes out.
land.
Hold on.
Getting
I have a prescription. Okay, you ready? You guys ready for this? All right, listen. Ross Lewis, I'm talking to you. Okay, look at me. I know you don't have anything to do on Wednesday nights. Give me a call to make this happen. We need
Oh
somebody
my
in there.
God, Joe.
We need somebody in there. Listen, redneck.
Oh my goodness, though.
Redneck. You're retired. You're a retired veteran. You have some free time. Listen, you want to go to? We got to help you out. CTV. You have Connor. You know you want to do it.
It starts with the same
you
letter.
need,
The
you
first
need to
flight
qualify. Are they colonized? Are they from colonized?
We need to do this. like I'm memeing a little bit, but if you came forward and said you were down for the cause, we can figure it out.
So,
I'm just saying we gotta do it for the content. It's an 8-week program. If you sign up, if we work this out and sign up right now, we could have a panel talking about it in like what, July, August.
So
Joe,
that would be some content,
man.
I gotta say, first of all, I love the look on Lyra's face previously. That was hilarious. That was making my day. But look, we gotta move on. We keep like just memeing hardcore on this. Actually, let's just go to another topic.
Listen, my
We're
closing
giving what
statement.
the people want.
I just
If I found out,
listen. In 100 years, you know what? Through better means, I've been wanting to say this all night. Where the Proud Boys
Aiden.
failed, the hidden village of Black Hammer might succeed.
Listen, Aiden.
Listen, you can't on a closed panel.
Last statement. Listen, last statement. Prime. I will say you're saying we're memeing a lot. No, we're taking the topic as seriously as it's set up to this. It's a meme.
Exactly.
Like,
I think that Redneck is built to take.
I'm triggered, bro.
Redneck is built to take a couple classes and then talk to us about it.
Jesus
He's built
Christ.
for this.
Joe Lewis, please.
Who else? Who would you bring up? Who would you put up? Peacecraft?
Hold on, Joe.
Hypertroller?
No, Joe.
Maybe.
No, Joe. I think you're on to something. We can grant Redneck his transracial card if he goes through this.
No, we
There
cannot.
was 8
No, we
week boot
cannot.
You
camp.
can't
Yeah.
grant.
Yeah.
Listen.
Maybe not transracial, but like we can make it sweet, right? You get one, and I mean one N-word pass.
Listen,
Just one.
Redneck is
One.
black in my eyes. Okay,
No, he
all right.
N-word pass. No, Jesus.
All right.
No.
There are
Just one under certain circumstances.
If
right?
Redneck is for the hidden village of Black Hammer, listen. I already look at some of y'all. So I need my Kofi hat. I'm gonna look at y'all. Y'all getting the side eye right now. Like I'm looking at y'all different right now. Like
listen, I think we should send Ross Lewis, but I think Redneck is a very good substitution.
If you don't get that racist, listen. We don't talk about.
I think the next closest person who I think would be perfect for that is Ankar, but he's been gone for a while. Rest in peace, Ankar. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
Pablo LaFlame. Give me the white kufi, man. Give me the white kufi. All right, bro. I love it. Hey,
yeah, Redneck can wear a kufi, whatever the fuck he wants. I'll go to fucking Africa and get like a caftan and get it fucking hand stitched and wait there while they make it and watch them while they make it and bring it back and give it to Redneck far body if he does that, man.
Listen, we don't need to talk about white guilt. Somebody, you know what? Let's move on. You guys,
what's the next topic, bud?
I thought we were a fourth intellect. I see some of us are still we're passing. Okay.
Wow.
Listen, sometimes Tom Brady has to play for Tampa Bay, okay?
Okay.
Oh my God.
All right. Okay.
Listen, shout out to the colonized proletariat.
Okay. If there are any white people who want to pay their reparations, well, coincidentally, I have a PayPal button below. Check that out. It'll make yourself feel better, right? Like donate. I don't need your skills, just the money. Just the money. Down below. Help us out.
I mean, you should help Prime out. He's honest with it, right? He said, "I don't care about you or your skills.
I didn't
money."
say that. I said I care about your skills. Just with the money.
Well, listen, if somebody wants to donate their wife, I care about her skills, but that's okay.
Get this man out of here, bro. Get this man out of here, bro. You can't come.
No, don't get that. Listen, you're not gonna kick Fanatic out because he's asking for volunteers. That's not on him. Like he's not going out there hunting. He's like, yo, if you want to do this, I'm not gonna say no.
He might relapse. We don't know that. He could relapse.
Listen, we only talk about white allies and the negativities of the white European ethnicity. We don't come out here with that white adults. You can keep that to your inner circle, your dark inner circle, bro. Don't bring that here. This is sacred ground. All black everything. All black everything. You can talk about black wives. You can talk about brown wives. You can even talk about Asian wives. White wives is off the table, bro. Off the table.
I'm Legend right now is just reconsidering like everything he could have done tonight. He's like, man, I could have went to the store today before I went. He's here on Saturday. I'm just fucking around.
Listen.
Okay,
Prime is
well,
like, I'm trying.
Anyway,
We've been moving on for
um,
10 minutes. Let's just give it to Prime.
okay, all right. So this was a thing. All right, thanks for that. So we're moving on to the next topic. Thank you to my audience for sticking around for all of that. I don't know.
It's gonna be a good one, folks.
No,
The
look,
Black Hammer, bro.
look,
The,
look.
the
No,
Black Hammer. Black Hammer
I
symbol.
apologize to Lyra.
Yeah.
I brought her back for this. Like for this. Like.
Listen, Prime, we showed her a good time. Like we talked about the Black Hammer cause,
Okay.
right?
The world will know
Oh
hammer.
boy.
Exactly.
Oh boy. We got what?
Listen, that's why I'm asking people donate so that I can go ahead and give their wives the Black Hammer. That's what I'm saying.
Oh my
man.
God!
He's got one for everything. He's unstoppable.
I tried to
We
be
have,
on your
we
side,
have
Mr.
a black woman here, and you are talking about. I
Oh.
can't. Prime. Prime, we
Oh,
need
For
no.
those of you who don't know at home, what
We
he
need,
means
we
by
need
Black
another rule.
Hammer
See that
is
this is
okay.
why. Let's talk about realism, bro. Let's talk about. I'm being fresh and fit right now.
Hey,
Let's talk about
wait,
reality.
no,
Black
Azzy,
women.
Azzy.
1 in 4
wait,
black
wait,
women get
wait,
married, bro.
Azzy.
And you out here talking
Can
about
you
white
move to the
wives.
next topic, please?
Let's move, bro. No, every time Fanatic bring this up, I'm gonna combat it every single
Okay.
time.
Look, thank you, Copper Mind Colas. Copper Mind Colas, for being so kind as to use your Prime Gaming on the channel. That's a person paying the reparations. Thank you so much. It's that simple. That simple. Didn't cost him a dime, in fact, right? But still very much appreciated. All right, so
I
look,
need to stop. Somebody just paid me reparations on my channel. Stop.
All right, Kyo-san, I know you can hear me. We have an 8-week program that you gotta do, okay?
okay, all right. Our friend Samantha Banana.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
where
this is
you
like
at
the end
that
of
8-week
the
program?
topic, so I want to move on, Samantha. But she quickly she asked, like, can black people make colonies on stolen land, become colonizers to the natives? Yeah, I guess so.
Y'all lost.
Yeah.
Native Americans lost. Listen. I'm Native American too. We got to tell the truth. We got to tell the truth. Next time we'll do better. So Native Americans come together. We need to unite. We need to unite. All right.
So
Let me get some of that those tax dollars from those casinos.
oh,
You know what I'm saying? Let's unite.
yeah.
We can be instead of
Wait,
it could be
damn.
the indigenous hammer.
Actually,
We can be the
I'm
indigenous
gonna knock
hammer.
this out. I'm gonna knock this out because we got to move on to the next topic. But like, can black people making colonies on stolen land become colonizers to the natives, right? To indigenous people? I mean, I guess so. Yeah. I guess if they're like going on, I mean, all of it's indigenous land, but if they go on indigenous land, right? Like take money. So like for Black Hammer, right? They took this land from the government, but what if this government was actually not theirs to give, right? Like we break our treaties with Native Americans all the time, right? So what if they had taken land from Native Americans, right? And saying, well, this is our land now, right? This is where we're doing our black colony, and you Native Americans, well, you're not black, right? And we already did this before. We don't have any solidarity, apparently. That's what I'm hearing. Any which way, we pushed them out. We pushed them out of the land, and I guess they're colonizers, right? Anyone disagree with that?
Wait, what?
60%
Oh
of
my God.
African Americans have some type of indigenous blood. Let's
No,
throw
Joe,
that.
don't
part out.
repeat it.
Let's
Don't
throw it out
repeat it
there.
from Prime. Don't repeat it from. This is his punishment.
This is
Don't
punishment.
step away.
No, Prime,
I just
agree.
these
I
episodes.
agree with literally everything you just said right
Yeah,
there.
no,
Okay,
then,
it's all-
100% you're right on that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. All right. Now we're moving on to the next topic. All right. And thank you, Samantha Banana, for 500 bits. Very much appreciated. Okay. Next topic. And it's one I was saving for our good friend Lyra. I did save it for you, friend. It is well established that Black Americans can face challenges in the dating pool since others won't date them because of their race. This is clearly racist. On the other hand, some individuals from other ethnicities will only date Black Americans. Fuck you, Nancy. God damn it. All right, try it again.
That one was good.
All right, responsible content. Let's have it, baby.
I'll give you that one.
On the other hand,
Inside joke.
I'm just Fanatic and his white women. He's calling them out. All right. On the other hand, some individuals from other ethnicities will only date Black Americans to the exclusion of other races. This can be problematic since it could be an example of fetishization. But is it also racist when people say they will only date people of their own race? All right, we've been itching to do this one for a while. Like, this came up. We were on Fanatic's great ADOS panel. Dale was on his channel, right? And I said I was going to do it here. And Lyra said save it for her, so I saved it for her. So we're doing it right now. So, all right. Is it racist to only date people of your own race? All right. We'll start with Joe.
Complicated questions yield complicated answers. There's a level of cultural preservation that we participate in sometimes, and some groups of people do that, right? There's also like a social sort of aspect, right? Because as much as like, how do I say this? Like when I was dating a lot more white women than I am now, like one thing that is important to understand is that like my white partner will never really understand what it's like to be black in America. And that's something you kind of have to navigate around. And a lot of times for a lot of communities, they think that that's just a bridge too far of like, and there's so, god damn it, there's so much to it because there's a cultural aspect to it, there's a religious aspect to it, there's a social aspect to it. I don't think inherently that it is racist. I understand where the arguments come from, especially from communities that have literally been wiped off the planet, or close to being wiped off the planet, where you want to make sure that your culture and what your family lineage like is supported and cultivated. And like some might use the word pure, which is a weird thing to even like say the quiet part out loud, but that's again what I've heard, right? So it's something to consider if you are going to not only participate in a relationship that's outside of your ethnic and racial group, but also within that. Like it's just a conversation that you kind of have to like mentally have in terms of it. Like, look, like I tell it all the time. My girlfriend is from Pakistan. Like, look, we're gonna have a kid. He's gonna be born. He's gonna end up on a watch list automatically. So it's like but there's like certain things that like for her and I, we're gonna have to navigate as a couple if we were to get married in this hypothetical situation. It's just things that we'll have to navigate, especially considering that she's Shia. So even the idea of her not being in a relationship, like it's literally like there's a lot to it. But anyway, that's all I got for now.
Okay. Thanks so much. Next, Baha.
Yeah, so I guess it is complicated, but for me, it's a pretty simple answer. And I feel like I've given this a little bit before, but at the end of the day, we cannot divine people's like real intentions for why they take actions, especially in like realms of love. There are many reasons why anybody could fall in love with anybody. And specifically, if we're talking about people wanting to be with those of their same race, their same culture, like it honestly is pretty simple to me. If you value stuff that's more related to your race and culture, if you value stuff that like is integral to your identity and you need your partner to reciprocate that in some way, like if you can't have conversation with your partner without, being able to understand that they truly understand like some aspects of your cultural identity, then I think, it's perfectly fine to be with, someone of your own culture, like of your own race, if that's like your preference. If it's exclusively about preserving your own race slash, and a lot of times I do see this, because back when I like have a girlfriend, but like back when I was dating, there's like a lot of girls that were black that would be with me that just like would talk shit on other races, like on other men. And if it's like from a hateful place, if it's about like some weird, like I hate the traits of white people, I hate the traits of Asian people, whatever, any kind of people, it's just plain out racist. I think it's weird. I think a lot of people do actually end up with people that look like them a lot of the times. I mean, I'd be open to seeing data that disproves that, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people end up marrying their same race or being together with their same race. So to me, it's really a non-issue if you decide not to. It's just very weird when people are very obsessed with being with their own race. At the end of the day, they're only hurting themselves if they're willing to give up love with another culture because they just feel so tied to preserving their own. But at the end of the day, like that's not my problem. As long as you're not being hateful about it, I really could give a shit.
Pyro.
Oh God, so yeah, this is holy shit a fucking complicated issue with like all of the cultural aspects in it. But at the end of the day, I probably wouldn't say it's racist because like it's not like you're targeting one group, right? Like when we say the statements like, "Yo, I wouldn't date black people." You're targeting one specific group, and then like Free said, like whatever fucking motivation goes behind that, you can theorize all the fucking way, but like when it's like I want to date someone who's my specific race or like that shares my specific culture, like there are implications with that. Like again, Freeze and Joe went into like I want to, share that bond as well. And it's also not like you're targeting anyone. You're saying, yeah, I don't want to date everybody else outside of my culture. If that's the choice you want to make, props to you, I guess, but I don't think it's inherently racist.
Azzy.
Yeah, so as a man who is almost exclusively dated black women, I flirted with women out of my race. It's never gone further than that. I am still for interracial relationships. I believe in ultimate because I'm thinking from a Christian social ethic. There's nothing wrong with interracial relationships. There is merit into having certain economic, certain cultural standings, but I wouldn't do it solely on that. Like, so yeah, if you have a position where you're only dating somebody for status, class, even down to the color of their hair. I had a friend who said I only want to date, it was a white guy, but he only wanted to date white girls with blonde hair, blue eyes. He had a list. And I was like, what about all the other white people? Shoot. What about everybody else? And I find it problematic. I think things like this leads to extremes. Like, I used to have a problem when my friends would date each other within their group. Like we'd be in high school and everybody's dating each other in the friend group. I'm like, weren't you just kissing the friend last week? I call it incest. And I think things like this it's of the same mindset. I'm trying to stick within my group. I'm trying to stick within my the people who look like me, people who act like me, talk like me. It's problematic. Now when you're getting into fetishization, as long as you don't stay in that fetishization place, if you can evolve from that and learn to love your partner, because and it's all about me, a love for me. Like Baha said, if you're not coming into like something like fear or lust into a relationship like that, a relationship like that will not last, and you're destined for disaster. If you're going to a relationship just out of love and caring, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
We'll save Lyra for last. She can have it.
Yeah, so oh, okay, I'm not on mute. Yeah, I think that there are certain things that are tribal and there are certain things that are racist. And I feel like this is just a tribal thing. It's throughout all cultures. I think it's socially influenced throughout all cultures. So like I don't think these things are necessarily racist. I don't advocate for it at all. I think that's one of Umar's bad takes when he's like really harping on this. I understand the economic side of it where he's saying that blah blah blah. We'll get into that in open. But generally I think this is tribal and not racist.
Yeah. Let's go, Legend.
I guess from an individual standpoint, I don't personally, I mean, what define racism as something that is systematic. It's a power relationship between white people and black people. I don't consider, me personally, I like black women and that's who I want to be with. I don't consider myself a racist because I don't want to be with a white woman. I think it's important that we have race pride. I think it's important that we love our women and our men who look like us and who can feel us and who can, like, we share a common identity, struggle, cultural, things of that nature. yeah, I don't consider, you know, I mean, I see it all the time with Asians. Generally speaking, they stick with Asians. Most white people stick with with other white people. Hispanics mainly date Hispanics. I find it problematic that usually whenever we talk about black people, um, we have to love everybody and things of that nature. Me personally, I want to be with a black woman, and that's what I like, and that's what I want, that's what I need. So
Okay, all right.
that's my take.
We're definitely gonna get into this. Oh man, I'm excited. I'm really excited. Everyone has different takes on this. This is really interesting. Fanatic.
Yeah, so for me, you can't say it's necessarily racist, but I think oftentimes it can be racist. A lot of times when people have like these takes of I will only and exclusively date my race. Specifically, I wouldn't say all people, but I would say when it's white people. And the reason why I would make a distinction there is because of the difference in power dynamics, such that white people, a lot of times when they have the I only want to date white people, it is because of the inferiority. They feel that the other races are inferior. Now, that's not always the case, but oftentimes that is the case. And we've seen like studies that have like demonstrated like children as young as 5 already have this embedded inferiority complex, like through the doll tests, right? Through the colored doll tests, where you have 5-year-olds like pointing to black dolls versus white dolls, and they're asking them about the different characteristics, and like from they're able to demonstrate as young as 5 that black children will associate all of the negative attributes with the dark-skinned doll and all of the positive attributes with the white doll, while simultaneously saying that the black doll more resembles themselves. So this sort of self-hatred and stuff that because of that, I feel like it's absolutely essential and a very difficult thing to do to instill self-love in black children. I, as a black man, did not discover self-love for quite some time, and I think I had an estimation of white women at a point in time that had to eventually had to be checked. Where I thought, whatever. So I would say, with that being said, I've come to the conclusion that I will only marry a black woman, specifically for the reason that I know when it comes to my children, and just for the idea of trying to instill that self love in them is going to be a lot more difficult when I'm trying to tell them, now you got to love yourself and love culture and love where you came from and love black women and so on and so forth. And then they're looking at me like, but you married a white woman. And it's like, it is going to be a little bit of a challenge. I think that introduces something else. And then already on top of that, mixed children in general have lots of issues with ostracism from both sides of the spectrum. So I think the idea that would be already creating extra challenges for my children. So I say I'm all for that. Now, again, I would say that because of the case, that we've had to deal with such subjugation, I would say that the reaction of trying to preserve or trying to develop this self-love or trying to demonstrate that self-love is an entirely different motivation and not at all to be equated with white people talking about we want ethno-states or white people talking about like we just want to marry only white people because black people are inferior.
Oh boy. Oh man. So much to say. All right. Last but not least, Lyra.
So mad you made me go last, but
No,
I was
about you?
the best for last.
Come on up, Lyra. Come on, take your time. Take your time.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for saving this topic for me because I love being a part of conversations in which we're talking about the collision between race, culture, and romantic relationships. Because as we all know, Black people have a very, I would say, very unique relationship when it comes to like their place in the dating pool on not just an American scale but on a global one as well. So I love being a part of conversations that are about this. And we touched a little bit on interracial relationships. We had a whole panel about it before, but we talked about a little bit in this topic. And a lot of time. Wait, what? Oh wait, okay, never mind. My chat just muted me. They told me I was muted. Sorry, but okay. When it comes to like honestly any relationship to me, as long as people are not being hurt, fetishized, or disrespected, love who you want to love. And that was pretty much my take when it came to interracial relationships. And I still extend that same message when it comes to people who only want to date within their race. Now, it can certainly be racist for people to only date people who look like them. I mean, for example, like it was touched on a little bit, if like you only date people of your race because you think every other race is inferior, I mean, obviously that's racist. But it's not fair to say that every single case in which people are going, oh, I just prefer to date Black people because I'm Black. doesn't mean that they're racist. That means they're dating someone who makes them feel more comfortable. Like, there's nothing wrong with this, like, especially in somewhere like in America, where there have been so many things, like, so many social things that intermingle and when it comes to like race, and like it's no surprise to me that many people simply feel more comfortable when they're with their own race, or when they're with people of their own religion, or when they're with people with their own culture. Why, when it comes to Black people, are we suddenly expected to, like, oh no, you have to love everyone? And it's just like, this isn't a weird thing. Like, it's very easy to hear this topic and
Oh
automatically have your
no!
hey, I'm still talking.
Oh
Let her finish.
It's
She's
very
been waiting a long
easy
time
to-
for this. Go ahead.
Exactly. Shut up, Jesse. It's very easy to read this topic and have your mind automatically jump to the people who go, oh, I only date Black people because I hate white people. I only date Black people. Obviously, that person's being racist because they're pretty much insinuating that white people are inferior to Black people, so they only date Black people. And there's obviously a problem with that. But don't forget about the people. Usually you see this happen with religions, like, you know, people who are Hindu, I believe, only date people who are Hindu. People who are Muslim only date people who are Muslim. This is very common among many groups, and I don't think there's anything wrong with only dating people of your specific group, because that is with who you feel the most safe with. It can certainly be a racist, but inherently it is not racist to just date someone who makes you feel more comfortable. That's my take. What you want to say, Ashley?
Oh no, what am I gonna say? Hold on, let me jump into this shit. Oh.
What you want to say, Prime?
Okay, here we go. One.
Oh no!
All right, so before I jump into this, it's not like I have like some extremely strong feelings about this, right? I can actually move on this issue. But first of all, this thing about like people dating their own race, like most people date their own race. Well, also most people live with people of their own culture, right? Like America, for instance, is just a very segregated environment, right? So you're most likely to live with people of your own culture. That's why, like, you know, like you're more likely to be victimized by someone of your own race in terms of crime, just because of the proximity. That's it, right?
That's how it works.
Yeah. Okay. So the same thing is for dating, right? So like, I would say that if we had a more integrated environment, right? Like, just like for instance, like Black people were just like evenly distributed, like across the country, you would just see more interracial dating. I think that would just be a thing that would happen. But that's just my opinion. Right. But
so too, if you have more integration, then you're more likely to have more people, you know, mixing and matching.
Yeah. So I'm saying, like, it's like, so I'm not saying so. You guys were bringing up, right? Breaking up the fact that most people in different demographics date people within that demographic as something to say like this is some sort of natural state. That's what I got from it, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is just what happens. I don't think that is necessarily like the natural state. I think that like if we just had more mixing, we'd see that more often here. Okay. And then of course there's the fact that racism is a thing, right? And so there are walls keeping people from quote unquote race mixing, right? So like. So that's a part of it too. In terms of like, is it? I don't like. I think everyone can have preferences, absolutely. Like, and you can't shame a person for their preferences, but like. I feel like I just remember the previous conversations we had, right? In which it was said, well, oh, if a white person decides to exclusively date Black people, that's fetishization. And then the other side saying, well, I decide as a Black person, I decide to exclusively date Black people, Black women, right? That's not, that can't be any sort of fetishization, that like Black women are a type of woman, right? Maybe like the best type of woman. Like, why would I look for other type of women? Because I have Black women, right? I feel like that can also be fetishization. I don't like, if one is, I don't know why the other one definitely is not, right? To say that you will exclusively date it, not like I won't even consider someone
All
else.
the best.
Like it that's what it feels like to me. But go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would say that
Define racism.
No.
Because I think we don't really know or fully understand what racism is, and what it is
It's foolishness.
No,
That's what it is.
no, I think so. Prime, I
Power.
think you're talking about institutional
Well,
racism.
Let's
And
let
not-
Legend finish his point, and then
Yeah,
it's a
this is
power
racism.
relationship, a power dynamic.
It's
It's
not.
privilege, it's prejudice plus power.
That's one.
So-
instance.
That's institutional racism. That's not racism as we're using.
Okay, bigotry then, or something, right? Like I don't know,
bigotry,
or
prejudice,
yeah.
Well,
extreme
no. Let's be
ethnocentrism.
no. Let's not change words to like what
we
we're talking
can
about is
acknowledge
racism.
that we live in a world of we can acknowledge we live in a world of white supremacy. That being said, the black family is under attack. It always has been.
All of
Now,
those things can be true,
genetically, white people are inferior to black people. That's just a fact, genetically, which is why there have been certain barriers and things put in place to systematically oppress black people in comparison and giving just a privilege and advantage to white people. That's just a natural fact.
Okay.
Genetically, they
Wait.
are inferior.
Wait,
No, sorry,
all
hold on.
so do you?
Wait
Do
the
you-
fuck on. Hold on. What?
Yeah, wait, hold on, wait.
No.
Wait a
Is blonde-
goddamn
is blonde
minute.
hair,
Hold
blue
on,
eyes,
just-
Some of you
is
let
blonde
We
this
hair,
need
go.
blue
order.
eyes, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Listen, maybe some people,
Oh,
but not
no.
all black people are genetically advanced.
What the
Wait,
hell
what
did
he's-
No,
what
just
he's
so,
saying
just so
is
we're
that
clear, hang on.
like
Just so
a
we're clear,
little-
that's
No,
not what
no,
we're
because
saying.
this
Let
is
me
a
ask you
case
this.
by
Yeah.
case. No, because this is a
Blonde
case
hair,
by case.
blue
thing.
eyes.
No, what he's
dominant
saying. What he's.
genetically.
I'm sorry.
He's
what
saying that there are
what he-
dominant and there are recessive
Exactly.
like genes.
There's
and
recessive
he's saying,
traits, yes.
Magic, can you please be quiet so we can like actually try to have a conversation?
That's a genetic fact.
No,
Yeah,
so
it is. But
there are dominant alleles and there are recessive ones, right? And what he's saying is that he believes that, and there's evidence to support that there are black genes, if you want to use that word, that are dominant and when passed on to children are more likely to show up in the children, right? That's what he's meaning by that. I just wanted to clarify that. But the other thing that I want to say is that, like,
But he said
we
the word's
all agree
inferior,
that-
though. No, let's like not move
he
past
said
that. No,
inferior.
he said
He
inferior.
said it's
He
superior
said
and inferior.
genetically
So he meant
inferior.
what he meant.
And
Let's not clean
wait,
this up.
That's what I mean.
because we
Genetically,
use
the
they
word-
are
what he meant.
inferior
And
as
because-
far
No,
as the
there's
DNA.
a difference
That's what he
between
meant.
recessive. There's a no, like I'm telling, like
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you. There's a difference between like the terms like recessive genes and just being like, ah, yes, inferior genes.
It has to be
didn't
less
know
loaded
that
language.
far.
We need
Two
less
different
loaded language for
connotations.
these ideas.
Let me more.
Recessive,
mic.
inferior. What I mean was inferior as far as DNA, recessive
I know we
gene.
got that
Blonde
far.
hair, blue
Oh,
eyes.
God.
Blonde hair, blue eyes is recessive. Brown eyes, black hair is dominant. That's what I meant. If that was
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
hair,
I think
curly
I think
hair,
everyone
that
can
was
understand, and we're being
misunderstood.
good faith here. We can all understand. It's just the loaded
Yeah,
language.
curly
Inferior
hair.
Like
means a
brown-
lot more than just the
What
word.
I understand is that
brown
he said
skin-
inferior.
brown skin is dominant in comparison to Caucasian skin,
Yeah.
white skin.
Yeah.
But that doesn't
Yeah,
imply.
that's what I
in
mean.
no way,
Okay.
hold on. In no way does that imply that anyone's like just because we use the term dominant to refer to the specific way a gene acts within the body doesn't mean there's any way like it means something. It's like in some sort of equality terms, right? Like so what? If,
No, but
if
he
a
said
gene's
genetically
genetically
though,
inferior.
Paul.
That's what he said.
Phonetic,
You're
on mute
taking
too.
your
Phonetic,
Prime. You're taking
just
the
hold
bad
on,
faith
you've been on mute.
interpretation.
No,
of it.
I'm
Phonetic
taking
is
the
correct.
No, wait, no,
interpretation. The
no,
actual
no. I
interpretation
gotta
of it.
listen.
Let
I
him
gotta
finish,
stand.
let
I
him
gotta
finish.
stand on Prime
You want
side
me to
here,
say
like right
genetic
now.
advantage?
Not. Wait,
If
hold
I
on,
said
look,
genetic advantage, would that be better or politically
Right, that's what I'm
correct?
saying. Like, please listen. Look, I get it. You guys want to jump down somebody's throat, and I'm all here for it. But the thing is, it's one thing to jump down someone's throat on the thing that they're saying. It's another thing for a straw man. Now, if somebody misspeaks or somebody uses a word in a way that you don't like, that's fine. But once it's one thing when you're like doing it over Messenger or over Twitter and there's no back and forth. The person is here right now expounding exactly what the hell they mean. We clearly understand what they mean now, so let's not address what we assumed they meant. Let's actually address what the hell they said, so we can move the
No, okay,
conversation
hold on. First of
And
all,
I
if
know
it
what
was a
he
white
meant.
person who was here that said that, it would not be the same thing, right? It would not be the same
Well,
thing.
the
right?
lie,
It's
they
He
like,
lied.
clarified. If the
Hold
white
on,
person
Joel.
clarified that what they
genetically
meant,
inferior.
So
If it
then
was a
let's-
white
so
person,
then
I would have
let's-
asked.
That's
Or I
such
would have.
bullshit.
You know what I
There's
mean?
no
Hold on,
way.
wait. I got a Dylan Burns
Like-
take.
and
If
like
we
as you
all
said,
talk
that
at
would've
the
not been
same
true
time,
anyway.
we won't be heard, right? Y'all do
Right,
know that, right?
so
If we all
so
talk
then-
together, the chat can't hear us. Just FYI.
right. So if we're gonna dwell on this a little bit, then we understand why it's different for a Black American to say that than a white American. There's more things loaded behind that. But to Fanatic's point is that we can't fall into this trap of feeding into a content trap, because this is just a content trap where if we can walk out of this with a better understanding of his perspective without it being this like weird like side eye, just like not side eye, it's a bad representation what I'm trying to say, but of just like the content trap. Like this is a content trap, so we can approach this responsibly, right, and get a better understanding of what he's saying, or we can just fall into the same sort of content trap where we end up on like Reddit boards about this and then run into all relevant traps. Like let's try our best to
No,
not
no,
have
nuh-uh.
that happen.
relevant.
No,
Leave
Joe,
all alone.
Joe, look. I'm just addressing the words, right? Addressing the words.
Yeah, the
and I actually don't see the difference, right? Like that a black person saying this a white person, like I don't see the difference as saying that someone is genetically inferior. But okay, but you're saying that this person is that Legend is saying something different. Okay, fine.
An old take.
But I
I've
don't
heard
see
this
the
take
difference
multiple
when a white person
No.
or a black person says that. I don't at all.
No, he's not saying
Ron,
it. It's just that when
What if you
he's
say
not
that
saying it
Asians are
differently. He
genetically
meant what he
inferior?
well he means that, but when it's
we let
typically
him
used,
explain it.
Well, let
it's-
him
you know,
let him talk.
Yeah,
man.
let him explain it. Let's not talk
Yeah,
for him. He might have.
But I explained it.
He already
and-
explained
he
it.
did.
And he did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he
like
did.
what I explained that brown eyes, black hair is genetically
superior.
more dominant
Nah,
than
let's stick to the
blonde,
fun.
blonde eyes and
Don't
blonde.
strawman, Azzy. Don't strawman.
That's not a straw man. He used that word.
He just used
He
the word
explained
dominant.
like
He's right
blue
here.
eyes,
He
blue
just
let him
used the
explain
word
it.
dominant. So
No. Y'all need to relax because I'm not being negative with it. Like
as
you
he's
guys.
on his side, like he's just
I'm on his side.
sticking to the
It's just-
words, like he means the literal
I'm
words.
sticking to the word.
Okay, we all know.
literally
We all
is-
know. Okay. We don't have
Can
to
we move the
semantics it.
conversation
Yes.
forward?
So let's move
Yeah.
on.
Thank you. We know what he
We
means.
ex-
Let's go.
okay,
I know
so
what he means when he says it. I listen. Listen.
We have a black planet. That's all I
And then
gotta say.
I ask you. Then I ask, when people typically use the word superior, what is the connotation? They don't
Why are
typically
we
use
still
the word.
talking about words?
use-
Why are we
Hold on,
still talking
hold
about
on,
words?
hold on,
Can we
hold
stop
on,
talking
hold
about the
on,
fucking
hold on.
words?
Words is
Shut
what
up.
we use.
Yes,
he's not gonna
Words are
give
what
us
we
a-
use to
we're
communicate.
trapped.
So, like, I don't know.
Oh,
Like,
we're
that's why we're
trapped.
talking about words.
It's
Moral test
genetically-
begun.
Oh my
The
goodness.
fuck? Are we here
Because-
arguing
because
about what we
there's-
think he meant when he's right here? We could just
He
let
just
him
said it.
finish what
I-
he's speaking.
Okay,
I
No,
know
but
what
he
he
does
meant.
it, and all
Do
you
that.
keep cutting him up. Just let him keep explaining himself.
I think
Let's
every,
just hear what he means, the full extent
think-
of what argument he's making.
It's
Right,
not a
but
negative thing he said.
I think
Oh my
everybody.
So
I
one
think
thing that
everybody understood
to-
what I was saying. I don't want to go back and forth with anybody about
Yeah.
it. Let's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
I
ready.
already
to-
not a straw man. You straw man you
well,
when you try to change it.
I'll say that, like, I didn't understand, and I don't think it's a dishonest thing to do to examine a person's words, especially when they use words like
not
genetically
offended by
inferior. That other people, that if it was a white person here, like, there would be no other conversation. We all know that. We all
Why
know
though?
that.
Why?
We all know
Why?
that.
Let's
Because
be
it's a
We all know that's the
lie.
case. Like, we can move forward. We can move forward. But I'm just saying.
Well,
it's a
we
lie.
know
This
other
is interesting
conversations
because
are
if a
going
white
to
person
be
said it, I
misunderstanding
would.
in history.
I would.
Hey,
I
can
would
we go back
talk
to the
about
topic?
it.
I'm telling you, we can move
like,
Okay.
We
forward.
know that
Thank
it's
you.
not true.
Thank you. Let's
though.
move forward, please. God
So
But
bless.
I said was
why?
true.
Y'all is because we're so we
we
don't
just
have to be
move forward?
immature.
Legend,
You don't have to
we
be
have to.
immature. We can have a mature discussion about it.
All right, so I want to make this as clear as I
Legend.
possibly can. When we
You know
approach,
what I said was true. If a white person said that, we know that's not true.
if we have to be careful when we approach these conversations, especially the road we're going down, because we're not the only ones having this conversation. So what I don't want to see are people within this conversation get antagonized by individuals in multiple chats and then run down these weird rabbit holes of things that they did not say. So I would
agree.
suggest that we should probably table this point and we could probably all have this conversation better suited in private, at least for this part. Just for the sake of making sure that everybody here's safe.
Like I
You know what I'm
said, we
saying?
can. Like I
Thank
said,
you,
we can.
Professor Joe.
Like I said, we can move forward, but like, there's no problem with like
wait.
ever because we do this
There's
all
no-
the time. People make points, and then we examine those points, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
that's like not like this
Yeah,
is like an
Ron,
odd thing
wait.
to do. But again, we can
Yeah,
move forward.
like, I
Go
don't-
back to the
Wait,
conversation.
Prime,
at
but
hand.
hold on, wait, 1 second.
We can.
He never
Prime, I don't
even
want you
got
to
to
feel
like
like-
finish his point because okay, Legend, I get what you were saying. Okay, the semantics about it were weird, but I get like the heart of what you were saying was like because like obviously we know that the first human that existed was probably a black person because of the Eve gene and other things, and I think that what he was saying was just kind of like colluding that it was definitely phrased weird semantically. semantics. We could talk about it all day. But I think that what the heart of what you were saying is that, genes of color are more likely to pop up in the gene pool than Caucasian genes. Okay, so
It's more
I'm so
powerful.
confused. Shut the fuck up, Azzy. I'm talking to Legend. All right, so with that point that you were making, so finish on, because I'm still a little bit confused on the purpose of that fact, I suppose, in your argument when it comes to this topic. So could you finish that narrative, please?
I was explaining that because I don't think, in my opinion, that we don't fully understand what racism is. That's why I was explaining that part of it.
That's
Like by the definitions that I guess what you guys are using, black people who were enslaved were racist because they didn't like white people.
He explained it. I understand. He was talking. He gave his definition.
So
Wait,
that's why I'm
yeah,
only explaining why
please,
I,
bro.
I I'm only explaining
So
why I
this is what
use that.
This is why let's
So-
move on. And this is why I ask when we typically talk about
No,
power.
we've actually moved
I'm
on, and you're
addressing
taking us
Lyra though,
back.
'cause she
Yeah,
was
you keep
addressing
doing it,
Lyra.
Azzy. Please stop. Please.
Taking us back to what? She.
Yo, Azzy,
No.
please shut your fucking mouth.
All right.
As you listen, we're having a conversation over what the
I
word
thought we
racism
thought that I was
means to
addressing Lyra.
Prime. Yeah, we're having a conversation about what the word racism means to Prime Legend, and you're taking us back to whether or not that word is good. Like let's have the conversation that
'Cause
we
it's a-
moved
it's a-
to instead of moving back. That's literally
It's a
every
divergent.
Okay,
everyone on
let's-
the panel is begging
yeah,
you.
let's please.
Like,
let's
Can I
just-
Tate him?
So
Let's-
Legend, so is the point that you're getting
Mute
at
him?
is that when you're talking about racism and what that actually means, what your definition is in regards to the topic, is what you're getting at is that like basically it's kind of unfair to judge people for only being willing to date people of their race, because it's like, I mean, obviously, like, okay, let's talk about black people. We've been disenfranchised by various other races throughout times. So are you like saying it's unfair to judge these people for saying, you know what, I'm only dating black people? Is that kind of like what you're saying?
I'm saying that it's not racist. What I'm saying is black people is not, you can't call a black person racist because he or she wants to date within their own race. And I'm defining the definition of what racism is. And by the definition of racism, it's not if you don't like me or because of your race, or I feel like my race is more superior to yours or whatever, yours is
Nope.
inferior. I'm talking about the systematic and
Racism.
privilege and prejudice,
DSU,
plus power
shut
that
up.
comes along with that racism. So you can't say, "Oh, he's racist because he doesn't want to date white women."
So Prime,
So
I have a question.
No, because I had a question first, and y'all kept cutting me off.
All right, I might have.
You didn't have a question.
I
You were
don't
just
know.
making a statement about what was already said. But go ahead and ask your benign question. Go ahead.
No, benign. It's literally to the topic of what he's talking about. But we have this fear mindset where literally, we need to protect the people on the panel from getting berated
We're not
by
trying to
some
protect
outside
anybody.
internet
You-
community.
No, that's
Listen,
not what was happening.
Legend,
Those are my words.
Legend,
Those are my words, and
Legend,
I'll own them.
my question is, when we typically talk about, this is why I said in my intro, it's a problem when we're talking about dating and marriage and all that, when we get into this fear and power dynamics in dating and relationships, because on both sides, I still think it's wrong. I understand what you mean by the genes and the genetics, and we're trying to protect how we look and how we feel, but I feel like it limits, and this is why I'm talking from a Christian social ethic. It literally limits people from coming together. I believe in the Imago Dei. I literally believe everybody is of the image of God, which means everybody's equal, which means anybody and everybody can come together and have a relationship. So when we get into power dynamics, that's literally it's to the last topic, when we were having the issue with separatist groups. When we get into separatism, we're thinking of power dynamics in between people. I don't even think we need to bring up racism, because I still believe racism is a fallacy. It's one of those model minority terms that came about in the 1800s. It literally was used to separate white passing people and black passing people. It's not a new term. It was just used for economic things. This is what I'm saying about power. If we're talking about culture, if you're talking about culture, right? If you want to keep Nigerians, if you're trying to preserve culture, right? African Americans, if So then I ask you this, right? When you mean by power, elaborate. What power and for what group? What group? Are you talking about black people only, or are you talking about all colonized groups?
Oh my god.
I don't think that's what he was getting at all, but
Oh no, I'm asking him.
No,
I'm trying to
no
push,
one on the
I'm trying to
panel
push the thought on the term when he talks about power. That's what I'm asking him.
Okay, so we know that the dominant society is white people. You agree with that?
Yeah,
They
but
are
it
the
wasn't
dominant
always that.
society because they have globally conquested the entire planet. Caucasians, Europeans, white people, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah,
You said
but
it wasn't always that. Could you clarify, please?
as in at one point the Egyptians were the highest power. At one
In
point,
America?
I'm talking about globally. He's not just talking America. He's talking globally.
No, you're not talking about globally. You're talking about also the past, right? You're not talking about
talking
now.
about the past.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. Which
We have no
nobody else
idea.
is.
But
But
Ozzy,
nobody
you're wrong.
else is.
Yeah, but you're wrong because
So
even though
white
the
people were
Egyptians-
always
even
the
though-
power?
Yeah, so you're wrong because even though Egyptians might have been really powerful in Egypt, they were never
Never
globally
globally
conquesting.
Thank
That was-
you.
Yeah.
That
Never
was
But it's
only
not
globally
about
applied to
global
white
conquered the
people.
world, the planet.
That would
That's
only
not
apply to
about-
white people.
That was
We're talking
prime
Whereas right
term
now,
premise if you listen.
whereas right now, white supremacy is global. White
It's
supremacy is
global.
global. That's all over the world. If you're talking about Egyptians or Kemet or whatever, they didn't conquer the entire planet.
Yeah, but all right. Okay.
It was never about. It wasn't a race. It was never about race.
Well, that's what I'm
It's a
saying.
social
Race
construct
is a
that was
relatively
created.
new term.
Yeah, it wasn't about race. That was just created to justify white people being superior.
Okay.
We are
I
far
do.
off
Yeah,
the
I want to
economic
get
class.
back to the topic. We're like really
Yeah.
far. We don't
Thank
have very
you.
limited
I'm
amount
only
of
going
time.
here because I
Alright,
feel
so
like
back
people
to-
are asking me these questions, and I like. This is the only reason why I'm going here.
No,
I'm
that's fine.
willing
No, I
to go back.
understand. I'm saying let's just move forward.
So they're going off of this because they're what I like to call poopy heads. Sorry.
Y'all ain't got
Talking
nothing
to
better to
someone.
say.
Come on,
Y'all
please,
want
let's
to
just
talk
go for
about
it. All right.
No, so like
I'm already bored.
there's the one thing
Black people don't have the power to systematically oppress another group.
Okay.
So
what I'm
back to
saying.
the topic, I don't think it's like because like clearly there is a huge power dynamic when it comes to the races, and it's not strange to say that this power dynamic will come up when it comes to like dating relationships in the dating pool.
Sure.
So I don't think it's. I don't know why we're trying to contest legend on stating that there is a power dynamic there, because like obviously there is, and it's there for several reasons. However, I do have to disagree with what Azzy said earlier about specifically like his thoughts when it comes to to only wanting to date people within your race. And you said, if I remember correctly, you said something to the effect of it does nothing to bring folks together.
didn't
So
say
when
that.
you said you didn't say that,
No.
it does nothing to bring people together.
No, I'm saying when you're going from a standpoint of power, of genetic superiority, of finance, of economics only, there's nothing wrong with it inherently. But if you're coming only from that, it breeds to things that this leads to separation.
Oh, well, that I agree with. If that's what the point that you were making, yeah. Like, if you're, because like clearly you can only date people within your race for very racist reasons, but the act in and of itself is not inherently racist. So if that's the point that you were making, then yeah, I definitely do agree with you there. Like, if I only dated black people because I thought that every other race was inferior, and like all of these other reasons, all these lists of reasons, then like clearly that would be a racist take. But that's not to say that every single person who only wants to date within their race is necessarily racist. It can be for racist reasons, but it's not necessarily racist because, like, to even touch on what Legend, I believe, was like touching on earlier, there is definitely a power dynamic there. And while we are, fighting the mechanics of systemic racism, we're fighting all these issues. I mean, it still, can be present in the dating pool. So we shouldn't antagonize or attack people who decide that they want to escape the possibility of that happening dating by you're only dating people who look like them. I mean, it can definitely come from a racist standpoint. It can be racist, but I don't think the act in and of itself is racist, because if you feel more comfortable around dating people, being married to people, having children with people who look like you, because that just makes you you have more in common with them. You don't have to worry about this undercutting race, or it's not necessarily, it won't be as quite as prevalent a thought as if you're dating somebody outside of your race, that there's like, sorry, I just got distracted, that you won't necessarily have these things won't be as largely as much of an issue as if you're interracial dating. Why blame them? I think as long as nobody's getting fetishized, nobody's getting hurt, nobody's getting disrespected, just let people love whoever they love. If it's just a matter of like, hey, I feel more comfortable around people who look like me, dating, because like, again, you don't have to date people, like I'm not, just because somebody wants to only date black people because they're black, that doesn't mean they're it doesn't mean they're racist towards every other race. But when we're talking about dating, forming a life with, not necessarily form a life, but like dating somebody, you can't blame people for wanting to escape, the chance that these racial power dynamics will be brought up.
I think like I don't think anyone had an issue with what you said, and I think GSU is like picking up on it. I think the issue is with what Legend was saying was that he was asserting that the racism that he was describing, which is systemic racism, is the only kind of racism that matters. I think that is like the claim that like started this. Like, I think you can be individually racist. Like if a black person wanted to date another black person and they said it, like they did that because fuck white people, I feel like white people stink, I fucking hate white people. I think it's a case of being individually racist to somebody else. Of course it's not systemic. No one is making that claim. But like that is a case of being individually racist. I think unless we disagree on the premise that black people can be individually racist, like there should be no problem if we don't disagree on that.
I don't know if you should use the word individually racist. That's what racism is, right?
No, yeah, that's what I mean. It's
Racism
just
is the
no.
different thing.
Look, see, Gambit,
no.
listen.
It manifests.
We agree very much on this topic, Gambit. We've had like private conversations about it. But I think it's fair to say, even though we do agree, I just want to make sure this distinction is noted, that there are two different types of racism. If you pull up Merriam-Webster right now, there are three different definitions there. The second one is very clearly, obviously referring to systemic racism. So systemic racism is one of the definitions.
I don't think Gambit was denying that. He like acknowledged
that. No, I am. No, you can say that I am for sure. I think that due to social pressures, words are being redefined as we speak. But I think traditionally, racism wasn't about power structures and blah, blah, blah. It's possible that today things have been modified.
Wait, can you clarify? So do you think systemic racism exists? Yes or no?
That's not.
Yes.
That's not.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely, systemic racism exists. I'm saying that systemic racism is not equal to the word racism. I'm saying that those are two different things.
Oh boy,
something that Legend talked about.
So
okay, where are we
here's
going?
the thing. I don't want to, because I do want to actually like tackle the issue, because I think what's going to happen is we're just going to have a conversation about systemic racism versus individual racism, and that's like a thing. All right. And we talked about this before. Like now we haven't talked about this very subject, right? Can we maybe not use the word, because we don't like the word racism? All right. Okay. Let's put that aside. What about problematic?
It's
cater to the baby.
Problematic. If you're saying that you only want to date people of your own race, maybe we can move past that. Problematic. Does that work?
I don't think it's problematic at all.
So then that's what I'm saying.
I do.
Prime,
I think it's problematic. Great. We can have a fight maybe.
Okay, so let me.
Good job, Prime. Smart.
The problem, the issue I have here is that if we go down the hypothetical tree, and these are hypotheticals of actual reality, we'll find the dissonance and actually understand what the actual take is. So let's just run it down. Like, why would somebody who observes Islam marry somebody who also observes Islam? Is that an inherently bad thing?
No, because they share the same values.
Well, yeah.
But how do they share the same values?
Because of their religion. Their religion prescribes them certain values that they both find good because they are in that religion. So of course they'd be together.
Okay, cool. Same question. Chinese Americans. Why would a Chinese American marry another Chinese American?
Likely because Chinese Americans that would meet each other and be able to date each other probably grow around each other in some way or in the same environments and thus have the same values.
Why would a Black American marry another Black American?
Okay, I understand like the route that
Yeah,
we're going
yeah,
down.
like,
However,
yeah,
the point the point that should be grappled with that's like infinitely harder is like it's not even infinitely harder. You just have to acknowledge it. There are
So
times where people can say, I am the Chinese American that wants to date Chinese Americans, and I say fuck every other race. That is racist.
sure. Well, why? But I don't necessarily think that just because somebody has that type of hate, we shouldn't analyze where that hate comes from. Because
Is that
if
hate
you're,
based on their race? Like literally, okay, this is like
I
the
would,
simplest thing in the
yeah.
world. If the hate is based on that person being a different race and them feeling that being with a Chinese American is better than being with X race because they are not Chinese American, I cannot see the gymnastics to say that isn't racist. I don't think
Well,
it's the same
I can,
power as systemic racism, but it is still being racist. Like,
right.
Well,
Well,
I think
I
it
had a
doesn't have to
friend.
be as
I had a
loaded, but it's
friend.
racist.
Yeah,
Like,
I have a friend who doesn't fuck with Jewish Americans. I mean, that doesn't fuck with Jewish Americans. He overtly hates Jewish Americans. And the argument that he gave to me multiple times was that the people in the structures of power that he navigated around were Jewish Americans. The people in the schools, the people who he had to navigate with when he worked in the banks, the people that he worked with when he worked in management. But he also lived in a predominantly Jewish American community. So although I disagreed fundamentally on every line of how he got to that conclusion, I understood where that comes from. So something that can happen, right, if you're not careful, is that you might have preconceived notions of a group of individuals, and that's going to influence yourself when you actually want to reach out and date individuals. And I think that's an important thing to recognize. Where sometimes, especially in the United States, if a Black American says, I don't like white people," it's like, okay, well, where does this come from? And now we can have this conversation of like, well, like it's just morally unjust or something, but no, but like the relationships that people have with the systems that they navigate in society will create the perspectives that they come from, that they
I
come
okay.
don't
from.
deny
So
that. Like, I
Joe,
don't
this is
think
what
I deny that at all. It's just that
so
it literally is racist. Like, it doesn't have to be
yeah.
so loaded to be like such a wrong thing, like such a thing that we have to hate and we have to admonish people for doing.
Again, like
But it is
I
like
definitely
being
did,
racist. They are
I
not
did an
being
example.
logically, well, not
I did an
logically.
example of of a friend of mine who is clearly anti-Semitic. I don't want to like harp on that too long. I just did as one
Yeah,
example to
well,
talk
no,
about
Sure.
like
yeah,
the
I
connection.
want to
I just
talk
use it as a
about the
connection point.
subject. I'll let Fanatic go first. I want to go after Fanatic. I'm calling my turn.
Okay, really quickly, I just wanted to say, it's not the problem that I keep having, Baja Blast, is that it's not inherently racist for a person to do that. There can be racist motivation, and there can be non-racist motivation, because again, the definition of racism is the belief of a inherent inferiority of another, and that race produce unalterable traits, and that and that those traits will lead to inherent inferiorities. That's what racism is. So unless if it's not coming from that place, if I don't have to believe that blacks are genetically or in any other way inferior or superior, I can think that literally every race is identical, but or is the same as far as outcomes or whatever. But I can still say that I want to marry a black person for literally for the other reasons that I stated above. Now,
Maybe I misspoke, but like I don't disagree with literally anything that you're saying
I
at
wanted to
all.
go. No.
okay,
No,
all
so
right, go ahead.
Well,
Speak.
he's
Go
talking to me
ahead.
directly. I think he's misunderstanding. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible for someone to say I have an attachment to black. Like, I'm a black person. I have an attachment to other black people, and I just love black people. I think that can 100%
no, but
be a
that's not
normal,
what he's
natural
addressing.
thing. Well,
He's addressing your
let
other
me just
take.
clarify. I'll be done in a second. Then you can talk. Like, I'm not saying that's abnormal. I'm not saying that like can't happen. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it has to be racist. I'm just saying that if
But
someone is like Joe's friend and they are like clearly anti-Semitic and they're being racist in their dating preferences, they're being racist. I don't know where we're having a disconnect at. Jeez,
I think
you
I do. Yeah, I think I do. So first off, the contention isn't about only dating black people. The contention I think that he has is calling it racist about the other person and like Joe's friend. So this is what I want to say. Like, and I don't want to make a semantic argument. There's a difference between discrimination or prejudice and racism. I think it's exactly what Fanatic said. When you prescribe negative traits onto an individual because of their race, that's when you're being racist. If you say, hey, I feel unsafe around XYZ because of my past experiences or whatever, like Joe's friend, I don't think that's anti-Semitic. I think it's anti-Semitic when you say, you know what, I think these people are going to steal money from me or they're going to try to abuse me because they're Jewish. That's when it's
No,
become
Gambit, it is anti-Semitic. If you now, because of your previous experiences, now assign these sorts of attributes to all people of that, then that means
Yeah.
now that's racist.
Exactly.
I agree.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
agree.
And that was, and just to be
That's
clear,
exactly what I said, though,
I thought
Fanatic.
you said the
That's
Yeah,
exactly what I said.
Y'all not
Yeah,
saying
just-
it
It
right.
sounded like you
Yeah,
said
just
the
to be-
opposite to me.
No,
It-
I
You
said
sounded
it
like
like
the
Yeah.
exact opposite.
wait. I
Clarify
literally
what
said-
prejudice
right.
is.
Yeah.
Clarify that.
I literally said if you prescribe negative attributes to a person because of their race, that's racist.
But the second
The
part,
distinction that I was making was if I have a prejudice because of past experiences, I'm not ascribing a characteristic to you.
Oh.
I'm explaining a prejudice that I have based off previous experiences.
Oh.
So
If you
because
use
there's
that
a
prejudice to
difference-
not date somebody, is that not racist? Like, that's my
hold
question.
on, really quick. This is the part. This is the problem, Gambit. Is
Yeah.
that once you have a prejudice, and those prejudice extends to anyone that wasn't in the direct experience, and now you have this attribute based on your prejudice that you are now applying to the whole, that becomes anti-Semitism. Likewise, if let me give you one more example.
I'll
If a black
finish.
person,
No. I
if
just
a-
want to ask you a
I'll let-
categorical question. Do you
Let-
think prejudice and racism are the same? Because that's where we're going, right? So I
So-
want. I don't want more
what
examples.
they-
I want to ask you a categorical question. Do you think
Right,
that a
right.
person can be prejudiced and not racist? Because I do, right? And maybe that's where we disagree.
So then let me explain. Yes, a person can be prejudiced and not racist. No, a person cannot be racist and not prejudiced.
Agreed.
Okay,
What-
so
what's
then
your,
what you're
what's an example
saying,
of prejudice here?
right? A prejudice would be any preconceived notion or preconceived bias. Yeah, just that's what prejudice
No,
is.
yeah. So when we're talking about these actions like dating, like where does that fit in? Right?
Right,
Like
so-
that's
so
what I'm
in Joe-
like.
in Joe Lewis's friend's situation, the reason why it becomes anti-Semitism or a prejudice, if you were to replace Jewish with black, the reason why it would be racist is because now at this point, based off of his experience, he is assigning those attributes that happen, those negative attributes that happened in his previous experience, to all blacks. This guy is assigning these negative attributes that he experienced to all Jews. So at that point, that becomes anti-Semitic. So in the same sense, when Gambit is saying overall, yes, I get like assigning preconceived, but he also went on to say that Joe Lewis's friend was not anti-Semitic because he was just being prejudiced, and that is anti-Semitic because he's now applying that prejudice
He
to
didn't
all
s-
Jews.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to
and you're going
reinforce-
over my
to
point exactly.
reinforce
I'm
and give
trying
a
to
bit-
like, I'm trying to question Gambit on this because like I get the idea of what you're saying, but I can never see it. I can never see prejudice enacted in any kind of way without it being racist. Like I don't know how you can be prejudiced in dating without being racist. Because what is your like? What are you
Wait,
prejudging, and how is that being applied to the real world? Are you
it's so
prejudging
tricky,
people and not
right?
dating people because of
Let
that?
him-
I wasn't.
Let him finish.
So, okay, I want to try to answer your question best. Ask me the question one more time.
So I want to know how someone can be prejudiced without being racist in this context of dating. I can kind of see how that works outside of this, but in dating, if you're prejudging someone, if you're being prejudiced towards someone, how are you not using that to exclude them from your dating pool? How are you not using the ideas that you have been with that are like, how are you using your prejudice non-racistly?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is how I will answer that. If you are excluding them because of their race, I would agree with you that it's anti-Semitic. I'm trying to parse out how what I was saying earlier was different. Because earlier I wasn't talking in the context of dating. I was talking in the context of Joe's friend before
Yeah.
everything that he said before dating, right?
Okay.
If you're excluding people, well, hold on, wait. Let me clarify even more. If you're excluding someone because of their race, then I do think that that's racist. If you think that their race has some inferior trait that you would be engaging with a genetically passed or blah blah blah, whatever nonsense whatever nonsense they use to get to that. So yeah, if they're excluding them because of a perceived negative trait because of their race, then yes, that's racist for sure.
And even like I had a personal experience with that where my girlfriend at the time was Polish and her grandfather was deeply against our relationship, and he would always openly say like, well, think about your children, think about the family. And I'm just like, that's yikes to say at a barbecue, my guy. But I like in retrospect, I can understand the argument that he's trying to have here, where, and again, just because I understand the argument doesn't mean I condone the behavior, in that there's a level of like understanding of like not everybody, even though you love this individual, is going to be okay with you dating outside of your ethnic group, because there's certain things that me as a Black American I cannot relate to as a Polish American, and there's a level of cultural preservation that comes with that. Now, is that something that I completely like co-sign on? Not necessarily, but it's something that I definitely understand, and even in retrospect of that within that relationship, I understood like that was a big contention of her and I being together in the first place. Like even now with my girlfriend now, she's Chia. And something that I've told her very honestly, and this is gonna make her loins wiggle a little bit because we've had this conversation a bunch of times, and she loves me when I articulate this take, where if it came down to me marrying her and me converting, I would do that for the sake of our relationship and the sake of her family. Not everybody would do that, right? Because that's like a totally different ball game. Something that I mentioned, like because like I'm willing to do what it takes to make sure that like I'm not like, because you're not, when you're in a relationship, I argue that you're not just in the relationship with the person that you're in love with. You're in there with all of it, with the family from the top down, and that's something you have to consider, especially if you're marrying someone.
Oh
I think in
no.
the United States, there's an oversimplification of that idea of family values and like what that looks like within other cultures. And I think especially for like Americans, that gets lost a little bit.
Nazi.
Yeah, see, I have a problem where we see like we need to convert, we need to change. Even in the Bible, there's specifications for relationships between people who have different faith, and there's no need to change. There's need to feel like I need to. We don't do it in corporate America. We have a problem when we tell Black people you don't need to change your accent to work in corporate America, and now it's okay for us to say out loud. If you want to do that, Joe, I commend you to say that it's to do that in order to make the relationship work. Yes, fine. You're doing it from a loving position. But if you're just doing it to cater to, because, and I only say, if you're doing that only to cater to their family, history, their family culture, what about your culture?
The
only problem I have with this is that this is coming from, the only reason they have that problem is coming from a fear of losing something, a superiority complex, economic. Like plenty of people say, I want my kids to do well.
So to put you in the same. So
can I say one thing? As you're just wrong. The Bible very, very clearly says not to be unequally yoked with unbelievers.
Unequally, no. And I hate people. You misuse scripture. That is for a spiritual. That's for a. Yeah. Come on now.
Let me hit you. So
I very much.
Moses married a Black woman. Moses married a Black Asian woman. Come on, bro.
I'm gonna finish the sentence. I very much.
You didn't let me finish.
Let Fanatic finish. Holy shit.
Come on, bro.
After you finished when I started talking, and now you're trying to talk over me. I very much know the context. I very much know it much more than you do. It very clearly, on multiple occasions, tells you much to be married to non-believers. It's very, very evident. It's very clearly. I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about belief systems. And you would absolutely need to convert in order to be within the scripture. So I do know the context. You apparently don't. Because
no, you don't. Because Paul talks about marriages between.
I'm going to finish my sentence. You apparently don't, because you started introducing race into this when race has nothing to do with it. It very clearly says unbelievers. And the way you introduce race, and when you said Moses married a Black woman, as if Moses wasn't Black himself, number one, and number two, that race has nothing. Number two, race has nothing to do with this conversation. So where you were wrong is trying to say that he shouldn't have to convert there, because there are very clearly mandates within the Islamic faith, just like there are within Christian faith, that people should be of the same faith when they're getting married. So yeah, you're just wrong. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like to put you in the same hypothetical that I'm in, Azzy, is that like my girlfriend's mother explicitly told her that she wants her to marry a Muslim man. So, and this is something that her and I have a conversation with multiple times. So to put you in that position, let's say you are in love with a Shia woman. She articulates to you incredibly clearly that her mother would not necessarily forbid you from getting married, but part of the family you would no longer be able to not only be in contact with, but to be able to navigate around at all. So are you like, how would you navigate that? I'm just wondering where your thoughts are there.
Okay.
Well, I typically say you're not marrying the family, you're marrying the person. If I'm coming from, I keep saying the Christian social ethic, I'm marrying my wife. I separate from my family and we become unity. If you don't disagree, if you disagree with that, that's fine. That's you. I'm talking about my perspective. This is a conversation here.
Sure.
Okay.
If I believe, if your wife, this is why I believe, because of course you're gonna have problems. Especially there's gonna be those people who believe there's gonna be, oh, what will the kids look like? Oh, they won't have the same opportunities if you name them this. Oh, if you look like this, if they have curly hair or dark skin, like you know what I said, what I was thinking, Joe. You know what you should have said to your grandfather or her grandfather. Oh, don't worry about my kids. They're gonna have black superior genes, and I come from that. Hey, listen, you should have said that, bro.
Well,
Listen,
we're
because
getting
then you
far
were
off. We're getting far off because you didn't really address what I was asking.
you
Right?
don't need to navigate either. You give the kids a choice into what they want to do. You're not forcing. You should never force anything. I'm against
absolutely.
Hold on. Maybe.
But
Do you want to?
I guess I can.
I want to try to open this up. One, I want to see. I actually was going to toss it to Lyra anyway before she leaves the hand because I want to see where she wants to bring this because she was so interested in this topic. So I'll make sure she has that conversation before we run out of time. But to Joe Lewis, right? I mean, to try to navigate this question, one, I think you are not incorrect in what you're saying in that, like, when you marry someone, you marry their family, right? You take that on whether you want to or not, right? Just socially, right? Like, even if they actually like leave their family, so like they say they separate out. If they are abandoning their family, right, to get in a relationship with you, that implies that a lot of trauma has occurred, right? So whatever that is, you're dealing with that within the context of relationship, right? So those things are all part of the dynamic. If I was in that situation, well, I mean, it's just up to. I feel like it's. I feel like the religion aspect isn't in itself unique, right, as to all the other kind of barriers that can keep two people from getting together, right? It's just one other type, a big one, but one barrier that could be the case, right? So it's up to my partner, right? Like, and I guess it's to a certain extent it's up to me, right? So like in that case, like would I convert? You know I'm not, but so
yeah.
if she's
and even to reinforce your point a little bit, my girlfriend is like overtly said, like, I don't want you to convert for the sake of like us being together. But I told her, like, you know, if the rubber hits the road, I'm willing to go down that path. Because it's like, it's just something you gotta think about. Like, as an example, like, my girlfriend speaks Urdu. I'm gonna have to learn Urdu, whether I like it or not. It's something that, like, I feel that it's like my moral obligation, if I'm marrying this woman, to understand, like, this is the language of her home. So to me not to learn that language as an American is just another example, in my opinion, of just cultural genocide. Like, I saw this within my own family where my sister married Mexican American, literally Mexican, and when he got into a coma, she couldn't even communicate with that side of the family because she never learned Spanish. And the entire time while he was in a coma, that side of my brother-in-law's family was just ripping on her, where it's like, this isn't like that. This is where that power dynamic comes in, because it's like, okay, you have a white woman who is choosing not to learn the native language of their spouse. And now you're in a situation where you have to communicate with this side of the family, a side of the family that already doesn't fuck with you, probably because you're white and never went down that level of like cultural understanding. And then you have to like navigate with that. It was really, really messy. So that's kind of where I'm kind of pilled on this idea of like for me, right? Just for me, that like whatever I have to do, I signed up for that. And then I'd have the same take if my girlfriend ended up being fiance was Jewish, Roman Catholic, Christian, Islam, like same thing. I would convert. Period. I would learn the language. Period. I'd learn the culture because that's what I signed up for.
Lyra.
All right, so I went on deafen for like about 10-ish minutes there because I wanted to explain something to a chat. I'm very sorry if I like this has already been addressed, but I kind of want to elaborate more on like you know, on the topic question, is this racist? And I also want to engage with you, Prime. I believe you. I don't know if this has changed over the course of why it was deafened, but I believe that your stance is like you do see it as a little bit racist when people only date within their own race. Am I correct?
Or
in that?
problematic,
that's
whatever it is, so we don't have to go over
problematic
that
racist.
definition again. It'd be great.
Okay, so all right, what prejudice, problematic, racist, whatever we want to call it. So I want to elaborate a little bit more on that, and like here's my stance. And hopefully, I just want to make sure this makes sense. So I think that there is a very big difference when somebody says, "Hey, I only date people who look like me. I only date within my race. I only date within my culture or within my religion, whatever it is." There are two like things, at least two places where that idea could be coming from. All right, and like this is kind of what I was explaining to my chat. And in one camp, that you could be saying, okay, I only date people who look like me because we share the same values, we grew up in the same place, we have a lot of similarities, we have the same cultures. All these reasons, they're basically all sum up to, hey, I feel more comfortable around people who look like me or around people who worship the same thing about me, and so therefore I only date people who look like me. That's one camp that we're coming from. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But here goes the other camp, in which people say, I only date people who look like me because everyone who does not look like me is inferior. That is racist. When people say that, that's definitely racist. And like racist prejudice, problematic, whatever you call it, I think that's the camp where there is the issue. In the first camp, where you're just dating people because, that's who you feel more comfortable around, because obviously you share similarities, you grew up with the same, we touched on this a little bit earlier. You share all these similarities that also up to you just feeling more comfortable, more safe around people who look like you. There's nothing wrong with that because there's no negative pre-connotations that you are assigning to other races, or religions when you say, hey, I just feel more comfortable around people like me. But in the camp, if you're coming from the I think other people are more inferior, I think that people who are not of my religion are more promiscuous, I don't trust them, that's where it becomes a little problematic, a little racist, comes in all the things.
Comfortability is
But
problematic
I don't
too.
think. Sorry, what was that?
Comfortability is problematic too.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. But I want to let her finish her point, then I'll respond to all of that.
I would say it's only problematic when that comfortability comes from. I think there's a very big difference from just simply being more comfortable around. You don't necessarily okay. For example, if I'm in a room filled with all Black people versus being in a room filled with all white people, clearly I'm not stupid. I know all white people are racist, but because of I'm being a Black woman, I'm probably going to feel a little bit safer around people who look like me. Not that I think white people are inherently worse. It's just that like I think it's human nature to feel more comfortable around people who look and think like you. Obviously, I know that case is always going to be true. And obviously, I wouldn't say, hey, I only date with Black people. I wouldn't go on extended to that. But like, I don't think comfortability in and of itself is necessarily racist. It can be, it certainly can be, but I don't think it's racist in and of itself.
So are you done? I want to make sure you're done before I respond. So she wanted to ask me this, right? Then we'll go to everyone else, please. But yeah, I disagree with you. Yes, you made two camps, right? Second camp, clearly racist got it, right? We can agree on that. First camp, though, like the words that you said, right? The words you brought up was that like I feel more safe, right? Which inherently implies that the other side is possibly more dangerous, right?
You can't protect.
So like yeah,
like
necessarily. I don't see how that can't be the case. That's like the
It
obvious,
begs the question.
It begs the question
If
as
we're
the other
all
side
here.
Sorry, what?
In my head, I'm thinking that like, okay, this is like the neutral level. Just because someone says, "Hey, I feel a bit more safe. I have more things in common. I'm more likely to think the same way as people who look like me." They're here. That doesn't necessarily mean that they think everybody who doesn't look like them is here. That's kind of like I guess like
I see what you're trying to go with, but okay, fine. And then saying like, oh, you necessarily have more things in common. That's all, or that we think alike, right? That's like prejudice right there. Like, oh, that they don't have our values, right? Like, no, and you'll hear this. This is like the same rhetoric you'll hear for like white supremacists, and I'm not calling you a white supremacist or supremacist, right? But just like this is the same type of rhetoric. It's like, oh well, yeah, we have to preserve Western values, right? Like our values. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to preserve our way of life, you know? So of course we just want people, right, who share those values. This is exactly what they say. This is exactly the language they use, right?
Wait, so it
think
can
there's
be
a
true
difference
that people
between-
use that language, but does that mean that the language itself or the
association.
idea is problematic?
Right, that's guilt by association fallacy.
Oh no!
Well, no,
Okay. Well,
no.
okay. Well,
I think
I
there's a
say
big
that
difference.
the language they use is problematic. I think the idea itself is problematic, and that
Why,
like
yeah, that's what I want to ask you. Why is the idea problematic?
Because the history behind the idea leads
Can
to
I ask
certain.
Prime now?
yeah. So I think the implications, right? One, that we are so different, right? That like that Lyra and I, right? And Lyra and I, like you've all seen audience members. We've seen the differences in thinking that Lyra and I have, right? It's been pretty explosive and really fun. We like her. But like that necessarily we will have more in common than a white woman who might be here instead, right? Like necessarily because of our skin color, right? That we think the same. We don't think the same, right? We have a lot of differences, and there are white women who are gonna have who think who'll be closer to my perspective, my worldview, right? And so judging that, right, off the bat is prejudice, right? Just making that judgment off my skin color or off her skin color is prejudice, right?
A
Yeah, I agree
I
that,
have a
like, you
kind of a
know,
follow-up
Put it in
obviously
I don't
context
understand.
so
So,
can
like,
white
Lyra,
women
respond to that.
understand how you feel.
So
Yeah,
So
can we
I-
put it in context? Oh, right.
so Lyra, respond, and then we'll go to legend, okay?
I
Question two
agree
for you,
that
Prime.
it's
Okay.
so I agree with you that, like, you know, obviously not all black people are going to think the same way I do. Obviously not all Christians think the same way I do. Hell, me and Fanatic, we're both Christians. We have two very different frames of thinking. So like clearly, you know, it's not, you know, right to assume that just because somebody looks like you, they're going to think and act the exact same. But there's still that, like, you know, RNG, there's still the probability that they probably will. So I don't really blame people for feeling more safe in that situation, although I do see where you're coming from. But like going to the white nationalism example that you use. So I think there is a very big difference between when a white person says, hey, you know, I'm not really racist, but like I'm generally going to feel more comfortable dating a white person because I mean they look like me. It's less hoops to jump through with my family if I just date somebody who looks like me. There's a difference between that white person and a person who says I only date white people because fuck black people, fuck everybody who does not look like me. I think there's a very big difference between those two rhetorics and those two
I
narratives.
agree. I agree. I they can both be problematic for different reasons and at different intensity levels. I don't know. All right, like this is maximum racist, and this is like this is only partly like Super Saiyan 1 racist rather than Super Saiyan 3 racist. I don't know. Like
Racism light is diet racism.
I guess the heart of the disagreement is just that I just really don't, as long as you're not attaching, negative attributes onto people who don't look like you, I really don't have an issue with you only wanted to, I mean, certainly you can, obviously, but I don't think that deciding that, hey, I only want to date people who looks like me,
Lyra, I think you just hit it.
them.
I think Lyra just hit it. This is what I couldn't articulate earlier. If I prescribe positive attributes to a person in a group that I don't prescribe to others, I don't think that's racist. That's what I couldn't articulate earlier. So
I don't think it necessarily comes from a bad place.
If I think, hey, me and Fanatic are gonna have better conversations because he's Christian, and I think like that doesn't mean that I think bad of people that aren't Christian. I just think more highly of the possibility of a conversation with Fanatic.
All black men have giant penises, right? That's a positive trait. I think all black men have giant penises, right? And so, because of that, I'm going to just date black men with their giant penises, right?
Cool. That's cool.
That's not the same conversation, though. That's not what Gambit was saying.
No, it was a positive trait he threw out, right?
That's not because that could be. That's not.
I'll use another.
All brothers aren't black. Unfortunately,
I'll use another example. Me personally, I'll date anybody as long as I like them, think they're funny. I don't really go, I only date this race, I only date this religion. I'm very open. But I have a lot of friends who go, hey, I only want to date Christians because I'm dating to marry, and I would only like to be willing to marry a Christian. That doesn't mean necessarily that they think less of every other religion. That just means that they feel more comfortable dating another Christian. That doesn't necessarily mean that they attach
I
all these
think
negative
that's different.
aspects.
We're
I actually
not
think that's
doing it
different,
for
though.
comfortability. We're not doing it
so-
for comfortability.
So, Prime, if I say I only like date women, am I misogynistic against men?
Yes.
Right? Like
Pig.
Oh my God, this is where we've come.
That's
Listen,
what y'all
listen,
are
Gambit,
Where are we
Gambit,
going
listen.
in this
The older-
conversation?
The older you
exactly?
get,
You
the older you
stop
get,
me
the
to
more
say
you're
that?
just an equal opportunity employer. Okay?
Not to me
Let's just
be
stop
like
it.
misandrous is
me
the
get-
word you're looking for, but okay, look.
Yeah, Miss
Is
Andrews.
there any value in loving yourself and loving other people who look like you? Is there any value in that?
So
Yes.
first of all, there's value. People loving yourself. There's value in people. Sorry, value in you loving people who look like you. 100% agreed, right? Like I'm all about black is beautiful, right? Like let's take the narrative back, right? Black men are beautiful, black women are beautiful, black non-binaries out there, they're beautiful, right? All these people are beautiful. Don't let the fucking media tell you or society tell you are less than. 100%. That doesn't mean I necessarily have to date or that I should exclusively date black women.
Well, how do you
Wait,
Interesting.
Prime, you
explain?
didn't answer
How
my
do you-
question though.
How do you
didn't answer my
explain
question,
that
though.
you love
Am I-
black people so much you married a white woman?
I don't see how.
Well, that's the
Because
That's
it, no,
the heart of the
because
matter
no,
here.
no, no, and
No,
that's where I
You
was
explain
trying
that to your
get
child.
No,
I'm
wait,
glad he
Prime.
said that.
Wait, Prime didn't answer my question because I feel like this is the heart of it. Am I misandrous if I only date women?
Okay, I'm gonna,
right? Because that's the same.
No, I don't think it
topic, right?
is. I don't know because
Why?
I started
Wow.
off this
Whole
conversation.
question. I didn't think you was serious.
Listen,
Okay,
listen.
hold on. I
No,
can.
Yes, that's the
Super-
I'm
Listen,
trying to
problem.
wow.
He
answer
was.
this. I got it. I'm trying to like. I can only answer one thing at a time. All right. So I think
That's the real.
Legends issue is more essential actually. So how can I tell my child or the community that I love black people just because I've dated a white or dating or married a white person? I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. Like I don't see how like that would take my if Obama had married a white woman, right? He wouldn't be any less black, and doesn't mean his commitment to the black community wouldn't have been any less great.
Says
Now,
Obama
his actions as president, right, might tell you otherwise on his commitment to the culture, to the community, right? His actions might, but the fact that he's like, I mean, he's with a white woman,
His
right?
actions-
Actually, wouldn't
is-
tell me anything.
But him marrying a white woman is an act in itself. That's an action of his political.
Yeah, it is. What does it speak to?
He's not a black nationalist, I guess. I mean, I don't know. But other than that,
I kind of understand where
Yes, we'll
Legends
just
That's the
coming
thing.
from.
When you're only, and this is the problem, when you're only doing things for politics, you're gonna run into problems eventually. That's problematic too.
Well, hold on. Everything we do is political, right? Whether we
yeah,
overtly
inherently, but
know
when
it or
you're
not.
solely focused on politics by itself, when you're doing something for politics by itself, you're going to run into problems because you are by default saying when you take a political stance, everything against this stance. I mean, just look at America now. We're
Well,
doing
how do
things.
you-
It's a
so
business
to-
as well. It's economics involved.
Yeah,
All right,
I
I feel
agree
like-
with you, but you don't just do
All right,
you don't
politics.
just date or
We
marry
can-
for that
can-
alone.
Being conscious is also action.
Yeah. We can agree. We can agree. There's a Kevin Samuels route and a Umar just around this conversation. Now, I think I'm a little bit more on the.
That's how I know
I'm
you
not gonna
single.
reveal my power level. I guess to what Infinite saying, or sorry, to Legend, I agree with him to an aspect here in that, and this is, and I don't know, I don't have the answer for this, right? Where if you advocate for something, like if you advocate very openly and very strongly about the protecting of black women, the understanding that we must love black women unconditionally, and you go down that
Black men,
rhetorical
black children,
route,
black family.
and then you marry someone who's white, or that's something I don't, again, I don't know how somebody who goes down that route navigates that, because that is a very complicated thing, because on its face, I would say it does look rhetorically inconsistent, especially
you.
considering it's like a conscious effort. Again, I don't.
Wait, what?
Listen,
Especially
listen,
considering the
co-op-
world we live
yeah.
in today, just pragmatically.
You
Yeah.
just ask the people who are successful in doing so.
let's
No,
go.
no, you're literally not
Wait,
engaging.
success? What?
No, yeah,
How am
yeah.
I
Because Tiger Woods is successful. He married a.
A white woman,
No.
yeah, but as you're not
No,
engaging,
not
because
being successful. No, because I'm addressing the point, Fanatic. You need to listen more because you said something wrong
listening
about
to what-
Christianity too. You need to
No,
relax. Let me
sure.
and for all the
I know
people
you
who
know
say
the
I
Bible
talk
better
too
than
Stay
much,
away
do.
from
I can do
religion.
this. We can have this conversation later. I can
Yeah,
show
we
you where
stay
you're
away
wrong.
from religion.
Show you where
Okay.
you're wrong.
Okay,
So I can do it in 30 seconds.
I look forward
Boom.
to that.
Start this time.
But anyway,
I
my
wanna
point
be
is, what I'm
applauded.
saying
I
is
wanna
that
hear that.
you're not engaging with the point that Joe is making, because the point
Joe
that
said,
is,
"How did you?" Joe said, "I don't see how you could successfully say you love." So Joe, just rephrase because Fanatic thinks.
Sure.
It's
I
okay.
can-
He
I can-
already spoke. I'll finish what I was going to say.
No, I
It's
just want to
okay.
use
You
his
don't have-
words
you don't
because
have-
I'm not.
you don't
I
have
don't
to
remember his
interrupt- you don't
words
have to
exactly.
interrupt, because I've been waiting to talk for a while, so you can just shut up while I talk for a second, okay?
I
Go
was
ahead and do that.
addressing Joe's point, and you told me
but
to.
I'm responding.
I'll
I'm-
do the Fanatic.
Fanatic, you problematic.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
problematic.
Fanatic,
Shut up,
come on,
finish
let
my
Fanatic
problematic
go,
point.
please.
Thank you. Anyway, I've been quiet for a minute. Anyway, so the idea is this. I do understand, like, the additional complication is always going to be there, because we recognize part of marrying, part of the idea of this Black exclusive identity and this Black exclusive commitment is it's a political advocacy, because we recognize, as it stands now, Black women are statistically the least likely to get married. Black features on women, besides obviously the cakes and the titties, like those things, like the other features are all like deemed undesirable by the vast majority of society. There's actually an anti-corollary effect between large breasts and successful white men. Like, when you get significantly more successful, they actually start preferring smaller breasts. Weird stuff. So in any case,
I know
there are
that-
literal statistical figures to display these things. I don't talk out of the side of my neck.
Yeah,
So
I don't
anyway,
care about how many.
let me finish talking, and you'll find out what I'm talking about. How about shut up for a few seconds? I've let you guys talk for a minute, so just shut up and let me finish. I'm making a point. I'm not rambling. I don't do that. I'm not. Anyway, so like the point is, there is an anti-corollary effect between these two things. So if we recognize these things exist, and we recognize that these are problems, then you could say, advocate, this is literally a big portion of my drive, part of my determination, that I'm committed to only marrying Black women, because of the fact that I recognize how much society is assaulting our Black women through their image and through these projections of what beauty is, and these unfair, harassing beauty standards, and what they deem professionalism, by like demonizing specific forms of Black hair, and the unstraightened hair being unprofessional, and African American whatever, I can't even think of it right now. But like the way we speak, them saying that, they always like assign all of these things about like Black attitudes and stuff like that, and they're always talking about how undesirable those things are. However, anytime if you have white women or Asian women or Hispanic women literally imitating Black characteristics and our culture and our way of speaking, then the second those things are done, it's seen as cute and desirable in those things. So when you see what's her name, Aquafina Black, that Asian girl, obviously creating minstrel out of Black culture, every time she's done that, it's seen as adorable, cute, and beautiful. Anytime a Black woman does it, it's Black women are just attitudey. So because of that, that's part of my political advocacy, to make a determination that I'm going to esteem the Black woman, I'm going to love the Black woman, despite the constant assault. That's why it becomes a difficult conversation to have when I'm trying to instill that same desire, that same mentality into my young son, that you have to esteem the Black woman, and then he's wondering, well, if you esteem Black women so much, why'd you marry a white woman? That is an added complication in that directive, right, or in that objective of trying to instill those values and that mentality. So then that's why it becomes political advocacy.
I have a question.
Women actually, as much as they shit on Black women, most women try to look like Black women all the time, as just to add on to that. As far as,
They do
ads
with lips.
and getting what's that, suntans and all that, tanning they skin.
So why are you making fun? Listen, why are you making fun of
They
Kelly
love
Rowland?
us, but they hate us, and it's always that way.
Exactly.
Then all of our features, for example, when Black women were doing the cornrows, it was always considered unprofessional hairstyle.
Oh, Derek.
Then all of a sudden, right, then they start talking about some boxer braids, and then now it's acceptable. Women, white women, wearing cornrows at the workplace, and it's not considered problematic. And it's
Oh,
like, no,
Kim
I just
K.
kind of like this style. Freak out of
Bo
here. Kim
Derek
K
and
did
Kim
it,
K.
and her sister with the lips, and Ariana Grande, literally darker
Right.
skinned than Nicki Minaj. It's insane. Anytime you can get those features, and you can get those
What?
features on non-black people, it becomes incredibly attractive all of a sudden to white folks because they want all the features of us while constantly demonizing all of these features. So it does become a form of political advocacy. You cannot separate. Well, you can separate the two, and I don't think it's a matter of
Tan
fetishization.
skin,
And that's where you went
tan
too far.
skin, big lips, and fat asses.
Yeah, Fanatic, I have
Black
a
women.
question before we get hit with the to my audience. So,
Yo, that was dope.
yeah, so something that can happen, right, is like people will hear what you're saying, they'll process all of that, and then they might come off as saying like, isn't that the exact same fetishization that we're trying to avoid here, right? Where
Exactly.
where if you advocate for something in a certain way, and then like at what point does it become fetishization? And I guess the question I have to you, and again, I don't, this question only comes from like I'm hearing the thing and my teacher brain is producing the question, is like, what would be the counter to somebody who would argue that it is fetishization? Like, where would be the difference? Like,
Sure.
where could
I
that
would-
advocacy lead to fetishization? I guess is the question I have.
Sure. So I would say it could be fetishized. Like someone could have my mentality and coupled with that fetishization. For me, again, all of this is like I said, political advocacy. It's about fighting back against this unfair, hurtful narrative about Black women and all of these things. So that's where my interest is. That's where my advocacy is. I happen to find other races particularly attractive. Every single person in my family has married outside of their race. All of them. Sometimes they're mixed. Like you might have a Black and Japanese woman. One of my oldest brother married, and so on and so forth. But almost everyone else, one married a Guatemalan, another one married a white Jewish guy, another one married, well, she was Black, she was from Montserrat, so she was from the islands, and then another one married a half white, half Hispanic girl. The thing is, I've always been very attracted to other races and all those things too. But when I got older and I started recognizing the intentional media assault against Black women, that was my motivation. That is very distinct from me trying to say, oh, Black women just have better features, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm not in any way true claiming that, and I think that those things are very
Because
different.
one thought that kind of brings up my mind, like, listen, I dated a lot of white women in my 2 days of 18 to 24, and something that I ran into is that sort of fetishization that was kind of weird, where like there's a level, I mean this in the nicest way possible, there's a level of advocacy that white people can have towards Black struggle that just doesn't hit the right way. And I can't really describe it, but it's I don't know why the skepticism exists, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Where it's
No,
like,
100%. That's good. No, 100%.
like-
No, it's disgusting. I know what you're talking about. Okay, so that's okay. So this is where it does begin. Okay, now I understand the question as you're asking.
Yeah.
When if white people were to have the same exact attitude as me, it would seem a little bit off-putting, right? Because I would say that self-preservation is just a human trait that cannot be like you can't get rid of it. It's always there, right? So this is part of that. Part of that is my self-preservation. One of the people who happened to marry into my family did have a bunch of that fetishization, where they were exclusively only attracted to Black, and there was a very big disconnect on a lot of stuff, and then the way they would talk, and they would try to take on our vernacular, and it always seemed really cringe. You're like obviously the most like nerdy person on the planet, but like the way you're coming off, it's like you're trying to be, and it was awful. It was like erasure of your own culture. There was a whole baggage there. So yes, there are limits to it. There are limits, I would say, that when other people, non-Black people, get to a point of advocacy where it does start to seem fetishized, does it seem like fetishization, as opposed to like where for us it would be self-love, and there's always going to be that distinction. We recognize just because someone else has a characteristic doesn't mean that the characteristic will always be the exact same from everyone else. We see this when it comes to like the N-word usage, like so on and so forth. Like there's all sorts of different things where culturally a person can participate in a culture and it just be a normal attribute, and then another person can be doing it as a form of fetishization. So you have like that weeaboo culture where you have certain people who just go out of their way to fetishize Asian women and fetishize Asian culture, whereas some people are just into whatever that culture is because it's just their culture, and it just has to do with traditionalism, self-preservation, and so on and so forth. So
yeah,
they
like
are
kinda, like I had a friend who is exactly what you described, and every time like it's so weird where like if there's somebody who is Asian in the proximity of the table or the conversation, it's just gonna get weird. Where it's like you can feel them like wanting to ask like the question like, have you seen the latest XYZ? It's like, hold up, not like these groups of people aren't monolithic, right? Like something that I talk about a lot when it comes to adoption, like that's something that parents got to navigate, where there's been a big push in transracial adoption and the idea of like understanding like the pool of black children, like for all these white people who want to have white babies, it's not your choice. Like the adoption system doesn't work where you get to pick out your kid. It's a relationship between you and the child, and sometimes that kid's gonna be black, and there's quote unquote oversimplified, nothing you can do about that. But one of my concerns is always that there is a level of like really cringe advocacy that I've seen from white parents, because I talk to them in these resource groups, and it's like really bizarre of the level of like dedication they have for it. Then I have to like stop them and be like, hold on, you're cringing really, really hard. Where it's like I should have Gambit coming to my it's gonna sound fucked up, but hear me out. Like I should have Gambit coming to my door crying to me about the new J. Cole and how we had to get our lives together. Now if one of my white parents in the groups that I do come up and say like, have you heard the new J. Cole? I'd be like, what? Like it rubs a different, and talking about like black determination and self-determination and stuff like that, then it just kind of hits a different way. The reason why I bring that up and answer that question is because like I get hit with this like level of like advocacy that borders on fetishization, and it's really rampant in the adoption community, at least in Jersey as an example. But
So is it safe to say, I guess, that me, Fanatic, and I guess Joe are the only ones who believe in dating within our own?
No,
Because I didn't really
Gambit
get to hear everyone else.
believes
No.
that, right? I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with saying that we should be exclusive, but I generally don't have a problem with advocating for dating the same race. So I'm an anti-Umar, but I'm a pro your argument, which is weird.
I support your argument.
So,
as
but would you
well.
date a white woman? Would you want to marry a white woman?
After
I
dating five in a
I
row?
have
No.
dated before, and I wouldn't have a problem with marrying, but yeah.
I've been very
Right,
much
so it's
pilled
still me,
off
Fanatic,
from
and
white women.
Joe,
I mean
right?
that in the nicest way possible.
No.
I've only
Human-
a short term dated white women. And I don't know. I wouldn't have a problem.
Pyro, have you ever?
Wait,
I wouldn't have a problem.
are we doing the litmus test
Pyro,
now?
Azzy.
Wait,
know, I
wait.
think
Is this the litmus test
said-
now? Wait, what's the litmus test?
Yeah, it's a litmus test.
It's are you exclusive,
Oh,
right? That's what he's asking.
Yeah.
No, I'm not exclusive now. No, dear God, no,
it's the same way I talk about genitalia, right? I understand myself to be incredibly straight, but ask me that same question 25 years from now. Then ask me that same question 50 years from now. At some point, you know, sometimes you got to open up the employment options. You feel me?
Oh my God.
The hell?
What the heck y'all
Yeah, that
talking
got pretty
about?
wild.
Sometimes there's some spaces that can be filled and unemployment can go down.
Okay.
Okay, so
To my
I
audience.
feel like
Listen, if you see Red Robin enough times, you might go inside. That's all I'm saying.
Jesus Christ, Joe Louis.
What?
I'm telling you, girl, bro.
what about
Watch out,
Baja
bro.
Blast?
Red flags.
Ba-
Red flag.
Baja. Go ahead.
Baja Blast.
Is this
Do you like white
No,
women?
no.
Keep it real.
Just do
He's
I? Oh,
asking
do I?
you, where
Oh
are
yeah,
you?
I don't believe in like staying with your own race. I really could give a fuck. I don't care about like my culture that significantly. It's like a cool thing, of course. Like I feel like everyone feels like that about their culture. Like if you're born into a certain culture, probably like a lot of parts of it. I'm not sure how much of that you can control. But at the end of the day, I value more things that have to matter, like completely outside of someone's identity, and that's who I'd find in my partner. I don't think there's a problem with it if someone just feels that way, because I think it's completely natural and fine to like feel attachment to somebody of your own, like, you know, race or whatever. But honest to God, I really don't think that shit matters. If you're closing your own love off, like because of that, like if you met someone and you could like totally fall in love with them, like marry them, and you just don't because they're a different race than you, I think that's weird. But I feel like most people probably won't get to that point because if they really feel like they have to date within their own race, they probably have closed off those possibilities of love with other people.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my take.
So I think this is a really good discussion, really good topic. I don't think we really got to dig as deep into it as I wanted to. We got pulled in a few different directions here, a few times. But I would love to like engage with Lyra on this one some other time. You know, even one-on-one, because I want to explore your opinion on this. But yeah. So I don't know. Well, maybe we'll try again in the future. But it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun in which way.
This was a good discussion.
Wait,
This
you
was
had
a
a
good
lot. We're not done
It
yet, though,
was
Prime.
fun to watch.
We're
Right,
not
what are
done
you-
yet.
Wait,
Prime, why
no,
you
we got
using-
to get to listen to my audience.
No, Prime, you using terminal words like done and we didn't get there and all of this loaded
All
language.
right, okay. All right. Well, since you asked for it, my audience, we are going to roll on to our open walk-on panel right after this. Right after this, we're going to roll on to our open walk-on panel where you may be involved in the conversation. So we have more content coming your way. No need to go anywhere, right? But before we do that, we've got to give an outro to all these fine people who have been so kind as to join us. All right. So I will start with the VIP himself. His name is Joe Lewis, thank you for stopping by and giving your perspective. I think it's interesting that we had the divisions that we did today. I was actually quite excited about that. Joe.
Yeah, thanks. This is a lot of fun. You know, I enjoy these panels and these discussions. Again, like I'm always very I try to make sure spaces stay safe because I understand that like there's people farming for content, waiting for somebody to slip on the Yikes take. So I always want to make sure that's preserved. For those of you who don't know, this happened while we were live. The Warriors are now the 8th seed West.
Hey.
For those of you who care about basketball.
Hey,
So for like it or not, I don't know, whatever, go 6, go all the way. Fuck LeBron James, get fucked, okay? But anyway, outside of that, you can follow me at twitch.tv/Joe Lewis. The O's a 0. I have a panel. I'm starting a panel. Jesus, we're all starting panels now. I'm doing one on Saturday. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm taking local topics about local, like state legislature, township legislative issues and pulling them straight out and talking about them. This week, we're talking about snow, lawnmowers, and state control of the legislature. So that's like the 3 things. And then yeah, it'll be fun. We have some pretty interesting righties on that panel. Let's put it that way, okay? Is it redneck? I don't know. Is it Ledger fan? I don't know. The spicy ones. Spicy ones. Maybe a I'm not gonna say it. But anyway, it's gonna be fun. I'm really excited to do it. And also I'm gonna try my best to make sure like it leaks into other things that are happening that day too. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Okay. All right. Well,
Always fun.
Well, thanks so much, Joe. Talking about like lawn care can actually be pretty dangerous because people get like really passionate about that stuff.
Telling you,
Lawns are
like as we
important.
learned from my community college topic, I can pull out the ones that can invoke the rage in people.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Joe Lewis. Blast person again. We need to have more of. Because I really love hearing their opinions, especially since they're oftentimes so different from mine. But it seemed like we had like a lot of in common this time around, which is fun. Baja, thank you for being around.
Yeah, it was actually fun, and we did have a lot more in common this time, which I am proud
It's
of.
because
You
of
know,
our
that's
skin color,
solidarity.
clearly. But
Yeah, you know what? It is all black everything, right? But it's twitch.tv/BajaBlastFreeze. I play video games sometimes. It doesn't matter. You're not gonna watch me. But like make my follow number go up. Like that would be really cool for me. It'd be a good feel good thing. But I love being here. It's pretty cool to have spicy conversations. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks so much.
Follow me.
Absolutely, please. Links in chat. Joe Lewis's link is in chat as well. Even though he didn't type in my chat, so I had to like remember. Oh, the O's a 0. Anyway, okay, whatever. So Pyro Tired, right? Sitting there in the dark, looking all cool, all right? Doing it again, all right?
Okay, Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, right?
Oh Jesus! Okay, fine. I'm sorry. I am sorry. I live where I live. Okay, but if you want to help fix that, you can follow me on Twitch and do all the bits and pieces at twitch.tv/pyrotyrant. I can actually say I'm starting to stream, everyone. It's finally here after like how many months of me complaining about it. I'm just gonna fucking do it. So yeah, follow me. If you want, you can follow me on Twitch at pyrotyrant. Other than that, thank you so much for having me, Prime. I've missed these panels a lot. Like, I love everybody here. Like, it's been a good conversation. I enjoyed hearing all of your opinions. Again, Azzy's there, but, love him too.
Azzy, what?
Listen, Pyro, I don't even remember anything Pyro said. So when you say something based, then what your stance against me is legitimate.
Listen. When you say something of substance, I'll say something nice, man. You
If
just
I
gotta
can
say
finish the
one
statement,
thing.
if I can finish the statement without
Your
being cut off
statements last
by
15
butthurt.
minutes.
Sorry, y'all a little too sensitive to me. Y'all a little soft. I'm sorry, like y'all a little soft for me. I'm telling you. As the only black man on this panel, I don't know about Baja. The only black man who has stayed true. I don't know. I didn't hear anything for Baja. Stayed true.
Oh yeah, I'm
to
fucking a white girl
his
right now.
culture, his race. All right, and
Listen,
then all these
don't
other-
misrepresent us like that, okay?
No,
Some
no,
of us can make
Yikes.
cogent points, right? Like,
hold on. See that? You're
Fanatic's
doing it
been
again. Doing it again, Pyro. See, this is
you're
what I'm
right.
talking-
I'm sorry. You're right.
Interrupting me with some unbased thing to say. So let's do it on an open panel, not here. All right, let's respect.
Fair.
Okay, this is supposed to be a sacred space.
Stop framing the open panels
Shout
like
out-
they're supposed to be bad.
Shout out to all the people in chat who had an inkling of what I was saying. All right, I didn't get to finish. I'm a little unsatisfied, but I understood what you were saying, Prime Legend. I just want to. I would like to talk further on it. I don't think the panel with sensitivity, on board, it's not the best environment. But I agree with you, PrimeCayes, excuse me. I agree with you on the second. I don't even remember your first opinion on the first issue, but shout out to all the good people. I love y'all. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, Fanatic, we gotta talk Bible, bro. We gotta talk Bible because you were saying a little something different. I just wanna we gotta have a conversation about it.
Call me when the scripture Bible.
Follow me on my Twitch page. Use Azzy.ohm or Azzy_ohm. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Appreciate to all those who did follow me. I'll shout you out later. And y'all have a good night and enjoy the panel.
Okay, so
yeah.
I'm sorry. You left unsatisfied. Look, in the open panel, we can go a little longer, a little stronger. Maybe you'll be satisfied. We'll find out. All right.
Someone's gonna pay money. Just use. I don't need to take no risks. I'm not a gambler.
You're not safe in the open, bro.
I love gotcha games, but I'm not a gambler. I'm free to play. I'm free to play. All right.
Always free to play, free and open. I understand that.
Oh boy.
Great.
Jesus Christ,
Oh, man.
Lewis, what are you doing?
A liar we're gonna say for last. GSU Gambit. My man. Always happy to have him around. Gambit is a big supporter of this channel. And so I had to give him back, and I really wanted his opinion on all this stuff, right? Especially since he always challenges me on fucking everything. So I had to get him back here, of course. So I was so happy you were able to join us. GSU Gambit.
Yeah, so I am happy today. I told a lot of people I was giving a STEM scholarship out to people at my high school, so I gave $2,000 scholarship. So super happy about that. But yeah, I did my job here today. I came here to make sure we challenged Prime. Everybody on the panel was based except Azzy, but it's cool. But I'm glad, Azzy, I love you, brother. But
come on now, I'm flipping y'all. All right, we want to do this. We can do this, bro. We can do this.
It's a meme now, so we're all doing it.
Going down.
But yeah, if you like my content, you can follow me on twitch.tv/GSU Gambit. I am starting to stream more. I need 6 more people to follow me, and I'll be at 600. So go follow me right now. But yeah, no, I love this, and this is always fine. Prime, I appreciate the space, and Prime Legend. I don't think we may have been on the panel one time together, but it was nice to meet you. It was cool for sure. Pyro finally had a base state by saying he
Likewise,
agreed.
Gambit. I like that.
Okay,
thing.
okay, Gambit. Okay, Gambit. Steal my meat.
This man a
Gotcha.
narcissist, bro. I swear.
All right.
All right, but that's it.
Thanks so much. Next, Legend, thank you for coming back and joining us and giving your very unique takes. You've got a completely different outlook, I think, from many other people here on this panel, which is great because we're not looking to create echo chambers, right? So, Legend, tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me. Considering last time I was on here, we all know what happened. But I appreciate you for bringing me back on and having a great discussion with everybody. Ambit, Azzy, my boy Fanatic, Lyra, Pyro, Baha, and Joe, and of course you guys. I appreciate that. I want to say, black man is righteous by nature. The black woman is the mother of creation and the mother of civilization. And I just want to give a big up to Paul Mooney, rest in paradise, rest in power to Paul Mooney, and Malcolm X's birthday was yesterday, so rest in power and paradise to those our immortal ancestors.
All right, fair enough.
What's so funny? Why y'all laughing?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, say anything.
Who's laughing? I just took a drink for them.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me.
You're not even paying attention,
No.
Pyro. This is what I'm talking about.
Keep forgetting about alcohol. Jesus.
Mr. Fanatic. All right, Fanatic. Back at it, Fanatic. I wanted to hear more from you today. I feel like, especially that topic was a perfect one for you. So I definitely want to hear more from you. We got to engage more on a specific topic. I want to dig deep into your brain here on that one. But
Most definitely.
yeah. But Fanatic, as always, ecstatic that you decided to take part in this, right? Because you guys could be doing a lot of other things. This to all of you, y'all could be doing a lot of other things, but you spend time here, this community, and it's so much appreciated. It wouldn't be the same. It couldn't be the same without you. So, Miss Fanatic, tell the world about yourself.
Man, like, you know what? I was trying my best not to meme it up, but this was talking about interracial dating. And you know, if we get to interracial dating, the first thing that's going to come to my mind is white wives. And I was trying my best to be on good behavior and not just go completely ham about it. But yeah, at the end of the day, I definitely super advocate for, you know, marrying within your race. But marriage is a total different thing. You know what I mean? If you plan on engaging with someone's wife in order to do the couple a service such that the wife can have her cervix reached and things like that, then that's something that you can engage in.
Your boy, Legend. That's your boy.
Well,
That's your boy, Legend. That's your boy.
crazy.
My
This
God,
is
that's
crazy.
my
I feel
God.
like I can never
your
just
boy.
say my opinions. This is
Listen,
nuts.
That is my God.
But listen, what I will say is, what I have been doing, I've been doing music, okay? And I had literally, I'll be honest with you guys, the first time I ever heard the phrase blaxploitation was from our boy Joe Lewis. And recently I've been commissioned to do this song for a video game, and I did it, and I started working on it, and it was I think it's one of my better songs. I have a link for you guys here. It's still a work in progress, but I would say it's like 90% done, 90 to 95% done. I want y'all to check it out. I almost wish I didn't ruin it for you. Because I feel like the second you hear it, I played it for my brother, and the first thing that came out of his mouth was blaxploitation. And I was like, yeah, that's what I was going for, which means I properly captured that feeling of that style of music. I listened to a bunch of Isaac Hayes, and this is a big departure from the EDM stuff that you guys know me for. Here is the link. Give that a listen. You tell me that that's not soul music, soul funk music. We're still working on it on a regular basis. I composed this mostly on stream. I would say about 2 days ago is where I made the most progress. I felt like I had a crazy mental block and I couldn't make much progress. Pray God gave me the rest of the song and it came out the way I wanted it to. I'm very happy. I like this panel. I like this space. I like black people. I like all people, but I love all people. I like black people the most because I feel like we have this kindredness and we need to unify and think and stick more together. That doesn't mean we'll agree about everything, but we should obviously advocate for one another because nobody else is going to do it for us like we can. So I like this space. I appreciate Prime. Subscribe to Prime. You can follow me at twitch.tv/MrFanatic. I don't really need your subs. Subscribe to Prime. He is elevating the most black voices on any Twitch user. Of any person on Twitch, there is no person elevating more black voices than Prime. But he also elevates other marginalized groups. Trans individuals are being marginalized. Women are being, are being elevated. Women are being elevated. He just elevates a lot of different voices, and I feel like this is a great space for that. So you should definitely show your support for him, being 100% honest. But I love you guys all, except for Azzy. No, I'm kidding. I love you too, Azzy. Yeah, good times.
Azzy is cool peoples, man. Fucks with Azzy.
Like Azzy.
Luckily, he's on mute.
Yeah.
Nah,
He's trying
boy.
to say something.
This is the issue with the black community. I'm saying y'all don't know how to just love and not throw no jabs. That's what's wrong with y'all. That's what listen, let's tell the truth out here. If we could just love and come together at the end of the day, we'd have better.
I love all of y'all, but
Okay.
I'm not gonna pretend like the black community don't throw its jabs, right? Like we know how to throw a good jab. Let's not lie here. Let's not
it's
fucking
good.
lie.
But then they don't know how to take a punch. Like GSU and Fanatic, they little. I'm saying some people here are soft, bro. They soft, bro. They soft. Dog.
Nobody's
Y'all need to toughen up, bro.
I'm so mad at you, Azzy. I'm so mad at you.
Saying I'm soft. I stay hard.
Listen, that's why God blessed me. God blessed me with these. That's why I'm saying you take care of yourself. God.
What did God bless you with? You never said what He blessed you. Never mind. Go ahead, Prime.
He blessed me. He blessed me. He blessed me with my people, bro. He blessed me to be around such smart people like Joe Lewis and Baha.
If you respect black women, you should let Lyra get her outro. Just letting you know. I'm just saying, bro. That's it. I'm not even saying much. I'm not even saying much.
Lyra.
Yeah,
Lyra. Look, Lyra. I gotta thank you for coming back. Keeping my family safe. But to make sure, right, that nothing happens to them in the future, I need you to come back here, right? So the people demand it, the audience demands that you're back here. So Lyra, excuse me, mother of all creation. I gotta put some respect in that name. Thank you.
Oh God. Okay.
That's fired. Okay, Kyle.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm so mad at Azzy right now. Azzy, why'd you make me yell at you during this panel? I don't like yelling at you guys, but sometimes I just gotta tell y'all shut the fuck up.
You are a strong black woman. I can't.
Why do you make me mad at you? Azzy is good.
You love me. You yell at
people.
He can't get her outro. Jesus, Azzy.
She was talking to me. We having a conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Azzy get on my nerves. Okay.
That's why. Love. We.
She literally can't talk. She's laughing because it's like annoying.
He's so annoying. I'm just like, Azzy not that bad, and then he opens his mouth, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Damn.
Okay, but my outro. Okay, closing statements. Okay, and you love who you want to love, as long as you are not fetishizing or disrespecting any group of people. Love who you want to love, whether it's people who look like you, people who don't look like you, as long as it is not coming from a place of fetishization or racism. Just love who you want to love. It's really as simple as that. I don't think it's that complicated, but there you go. That's my closing statements on the topic. But hi, I'm Lyra Centauri. I stream on Twitch. Thank you so much for inviting to this panel. I love these panels, Prime. I always love when it gets. I usually just stay under the radar. I'm just like, okay. But I love when people are like, but Lyra, what did you? I'm just like, ooh, you got exceeded in my face. I'm like, ooh, what I said? What's wrong with it? It's so much fun arguing with y'all. But thank you for inviting me on the panel. I love all of you. You all are very well spoken and fun to discuss. I do have to let you guys know that I will be going on a hiatus soon for 2 months. I'm a geology major, and this summer I have to go into the mountains of Montana to do geology stuff. And I will be in the middle of the woods with probably no signal most days.
Oh,
So I will
Black
be
Panther.
taking a 2-month hiatus.
Probably just love to
So
cry.
I know. I'm so sorry, Prime. I'm sorry. My last stream will be May 29th, so next week is my last week streaming. I'll be gone for 2 months. I'm coming back August 3rd. So I'm coming
She'll be
back,
back.
but yeah, I'll be
Well-
back. I'll be back. Don't worry. But I will be gone for 2 months. So
You're
it
not
was
gonna
my
tell
heart
them
was
the truth?
breaking.
I'm
I'm so
out of Black
sorry.
Hammer. Drop out of Black Hammer crew while you out there.
No, I'm
Let
not.
us know how they living.
No, I'm not.
Listen,
I'm not talking to them.
Listen, me and Lyra's chat discovered that there's no way she's ever gonna live outside. All of this is a joke. She's just taking too much off.
No, I'm not. I'm gonna post pictures and everything in my Discord. Why do you think I go hiking all the time? They think I'm bougie and I'm not gonna survive in the woods. And I'm just like, leave me alone. I'll be fine.
Listen. Your entire chat right now, I'm sure, is saying, no, we know you're not going in the woods with mosquitoes. It's not happening.
Yes, I am. I'm not that bougie. I go hiking all the time. I'll be fine.
It's gonna take one big ass beetle to change your mind
not
on
that
all of that.
bougie.
One big ass not cute beetle.
Well, I want to graduate, so I'm gonna be there. So I'm gonna do it. So
Until that
I'll
beetle
post
show
pictures.
up, that beetle
Well,
gonna fly in your face,
Well,
and
you
you're gonna be like,
admit to
"Fuck
being
that
bougie,
degree."
it's
ain't
not
worth
that
it.
Y'all
bougie.
talking about beetles. The trail that we're going on is actually going to have black bears there. So I'm a bit more
That's even
concerned about
worse.
the bears.
Look,
I'll be
Thank you for
fine.
making my
that.
point. It's gonna be a fucking bear flying in your face.
Prime is trying to get his out. It's so funny because he like moved. He's like, shit, how am I gonna get out of this?
Hey, Prime, I'm sorry.
You gonna be stuck with these dummies. That's what you gonna be
Like,
stuck
how do
with.
I shut these niggas out?
So I want to say to the audience, I'm sorry, I won't be able to provide. Please don't hurt my family.
Sorry.
Distance makes love grow
I
stronger,
am-
bro.
I am heartbroken, like beyond words, that we're missing Lyra. Best thing to
I'll be
happen
back.
to this. Oh, okay, we'll be back 2 months later, right?
I'll be back.
And
To go for school.
she's like all mature. Like, look at me. I've been out there hiking, roughing it, right? Like, do I actually need to be back with these people, right? I need to be outside, right? Like, I don't know. Like, people change in that much time, so I don't know if this so.
No, I'll definitely be back. I love these panels,
Okay.
Prime. I will definitely be black.
That's literally the
I'll-
anime take. Like
No,
you get the lone protagonist,
Yeah.
and then like they beat the boss and everybody's leaving. It's like I have to stay with them. And it's like what?
Yeah.
It's like I learned to be connected with the land, and it's like God.
Oh, that's
It's
I'll
like
come
what's
back.
gonna happen?
Bigger and stronger than ever, you
I'll be
know. I'll
They
be
only
back.
return. They only return for the movies, and
and
there's no reason why they're back.
Oh,
Like,
man. All right. Well,
No, I'll
They
be
wthe off on a
back. I
separate
have to
journey
go
in
for
the
school,
break.
but I'll miss all
I'm
of
sure
you
there's
guys
a One
while
Piece
I'm
reference in there
gone.
somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll miss
Listen.
all of you while I'm gone, but I'll be back after 2 months. I'll miss
Alright, well.
everybody. I'll be back. I promise I'll
Okay.
be back.
Well,
Lyra's gonna
So-
come back a hardened veteran.
so we're gonna move on to the open panel. We'll talk about two things. One, we'll continue this talk about exclusively dating your own race, because I think other people want to talk about that. But two, I think the more important thing is that we're gonna be in mourning over our loss of Lyra. Everyone want to say words about that. How you feeling, right?
Dying.
We'll have to all work together, to get through this one day at a time. But yeah, we'll just say how much we miss this individual, and how much.
Y'all high on Lyra, bro.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
bro.
we
That's
are.
kinda bad, man.
Fuck yes. Anyway,
Listen, sounds.
so anyway,
Don't hate Azzy.
so we
I'm
are.
not.
know what that was like.
No, you gonna be back. I trust Lyra, bro.
yo,
Y'all don't
Prime,
sound like y'all
Prime.
trust
Okay.
Lyra.
Hold on, as Prime. As you said, he was gonna take a 2-month break too. How do you feel about that?
Baseball, dude. Let's go.
Yo,
Just kidding.
Prime. Listen, I've been on hiatus for a minute. Like, did you make the same type of heartfelt statement when I said I couldn't come in last time for work?
In my own little corner, in my own little chair,
It
bro.
was in my heart. Look, I love Azzy. I think Azzy is great. I think Azzy is great. I didn't like Azzy before, but it was only because like he had that treble mic, and like I could use his terrible audio with like me not liking him, but actually
And now you got the Charlie Brown line behind
once
him.
he's
Like, what is that?
once he came back and he had the fixed up audio, I'm like, oh, I like what he had. Well, anyway, I like I like Azzy as a person. I like his personality, what he has to say. But like I like Azzy. So I would be heartbroken if Azzy left, right? Well, I mean, I don't want to. Maybe I should use.
That's why I keep coming back, because I know Prime, bro. I don't come for y'all sometimes.
But Lyra, come on, number one. Let's keep it real there. All right, okay. Of course, no question. All right.
I'm like, no, you.
Oh my god, we've been outroing for like a fucking half hour. All right, here we go. Thank you all for being here. We're gonna transition to our open walk on panel. The conversation does not end here. All right, so we'll have more content right after this. But to my panelists, anyone here can join us. But if not, that's okay. Thank you for spending your time, your energy, your passion, your knowledge of my community. I'm sure they appreciate it as much as I do. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye.